that I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. This isn't even in our news, but
I mean,
the Mortal Kombat, they put in the movie versions of all those dudes,
So
which
you
I think
don't have
is,
to have transphobic Sonya Blade.
which that's
is great.
That's a big plus.
That's
I don't know.
great.
I don't know if
Yeah.
she comes into the actual campaign.
No,
I don't think so.
But in the multiplayer, you can just have non-transphobic Sonya Blade.
Yeah. But like I think that's kind of a really funny, like a super funny move. And I wonder, like, what other video game franchises would you like to see, like the film adaptation of a character come back into the actual game?
Spider-Man.
Tobey
I think
Maguire.
Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
they did that for one.
And
They did, you're right.
Willem Dafoe Green Goblin.
But yeah, get Christopher Lambert for everything.
Yeah. I mean, I think that a Spider-Verse version of if they brought like the Spider-Verse versions of those characters into a Spider-Man game, that would be really cool.
You could get Nick Cage in there.
Yes, I think that would be awesome. But I mean, honestly, I think I would just say make a Spider-Verse game that's like still have Insomniac make it, but it's not necessarily tied to the main franchise. But that wouldn't make sense either. So I don't know. We're never going to get it. I don't know.
Get Mark Wahlberg for the next Max Payne game.
I think a Rock Doom guy skin could be funny.
Oh yeah.
That Max Payne movie is really fucking bad.
Oh yeah, I was so excited for it, and I was with my partner at the time. I basically dragged her to the theater because I'm a huge Max Payne fan, and both of us walked out of it just like, what did we even watch?
Bad.
It's terrible.
Yeah. It's trash. I mean, I don't even know why they called it Max Payne. That movie is trash.
Because they wanted the bullet time. I don't know.
Yeah, it barely had
was
that.
in the Matrix.
It didn't.
It barely.
No.
But
Barely.
okay.
It was,
I mean, like it was like, oh well, the Matrix did, but now everyone wants to do bullet time. So
It had,
Max
like,
Payne.
It was way more about drugs. It was more about like Valkyrie.
that was
and all
what I hated about it, is that in the original Max Payne games, all the weird shit is actually weird in addition to there being drug stuff. In the movie, it was like everything is normal except when people take the drugs and then they see angels.
Yeah, like literal angels.
Yes.
With wings and stuff. But how about this? Mila Jovovich in the next Monster Hunter game.
I thought you were going to say Resident Evil.
That's actually already happening.
Wait, is she actually?
Yes, Mila Jovovich, you can play as her in Monster Hunter Iceborne.
Yeah.
There's an event happening where they're
I didn't
using
know
her,
that.
putting her in. Yes.
Okay.
That sounds right. Yeah,
It is. I saw an ad for it on Twitter. I didn't bring it up because I assumed everyone had seen it, but
No,
I didn't. I never even saw that.
there's a limited time event coming where you play as her. Her model in Monster Hunter Iceborne looks terrifying and not really like a person. She's very pretty. The model does not look particularly.
All right. I got one last one, and then we can move on if we want. You get John Leguizamo in Mario. And Bob Hoskins, of course.
Now,
but
if you want, there is not a game that I would be more excited for Nintendo to announce than an open world RPG that's based on the film Super Mario Brothers.
Super Mario. It's like Street Fighter, the movie, the game. Super Mario Brothers, the movie, the game.
oh my God. Imagine that
Except-
Yoshi.
I wouldn't want it to be like
Bowser.
Mechanically, I would want it to be like, you know, an open world RPG like The Witcher or something. But
Well, it would basically it'd be like
in New York,
Cyberpunk
Mario
2077.
yes, exactly. An immersive sim.
Mushroom
starring
Kingdom
John Leguizamo.
2077.
Fun fact: Uwe Boll decided to branch out from filmmaking in 2016 to work in the restaurant industry.
Yeah,
I had heard about
restaurant in Vancouver.
An outhouse restaurant?
Bauhaus.
Oh, okay.
Right. Yeah, right. I remember. I've heard this.
Apparently, he announced a comeback this year.
Good, great. Looking forward to it.
He's gonna make the Gods and Monsters movie or something.
He's
gonna make a Watch Dogs movie.
He's making a movie called Rampage 4.
There's
Like
been
Rampage
three.
Total Destruction.
Yeah, there was. I know there was one Rampage movie. It had The Rock in it. Didn't
I
it?
don't know if these are the same Rampage.
Probably
this is
not.
Yeah, this is not related to a video game. It's not
Okay.
based on video games. They're an Uwe Boll penned and conceived of action movie film.
Yeah, Yeah.
Apparently, the first Rampage film was the only movie he's made that got pretty good reviews or okay reviews.
Wow.
Okay. Well,
It got 3.5 stars out of 5 from Bloody Disgusting. So there you go.
That's higher than I expect.
We
have
have lots
lots-
of the other Rampage films
we have
did.
lots to talk about this week, don't we?
yeah. Oh, as you might tell, listener, we played so many games this
It's
week.
impressive that he, first of all, the first film is called Rampage. The sequel
So
is
Andre, what did
called
you play?
Rampage Capital Punishment.
I played Rampage,
The
Capital
third one
Punishment.
is
Oh,
called
no.
Rampage President Down.
Okay.
Okay.
3 years after his second killing spree at a TV station in Washington, D.C., following which he was presumed dead in a massive explosion, Bill Williamson returns from hiding and using a sniper
Bill-
rifle assassinates the President of the United States as well as the Vice President and the Secretary of Defense, which happens off camera.
Sorry,
William
Bill
Williamson.
Williamson. Yeah.
That's a character from Red Dead, for starters.
Yeah.
And these films came out after Red Dead Redemption 1, so yeah.
Well, I see.
That's the Rampage series is going to be our new.
He
We
should just,
found it. We did
they
it.
should just make a new Joe Dirt. I know he had nothing to do with the original, but they should just make a new Joe Dirt. That's all.
Sure.
I don't like. It's a controversial opinion. Not a huge Joe Dirt fan.
I'm not a huge fan of it either, but they should make a new one. Anyways,
Sure. Okay.
Sorry, I had a cat jump on me and
You know what would be great
with the microphone.
is if they made a series about a game called Yakuza, and it was just all the they just had the big story beats, and then every once in a while there's here's some wacky side shit where you're just like, who are these people?
The only reason to make any adaptation of Yakuza is to make it so that you can play other Yakuza games without needing to play them.
Oh yeah, no, it's
like
just
the
to
way they did those
absorb
comic books.
just to absorb the
Yes.
story.
And they already did it with the comic books. So as far as I'm
but
concerned,
I mean, you could do a whole new thing, but side stories. There's a lot of time in there that isn't covered. But yeah, so I'm spending more time with Yakuza Like a Dragon. I'm 20 hours in at this point,
nice.
and I think I've seen kind of mechanically everything it has to offer, or at least most of what it has to offer. And I'm having a lot of fun with it. I'm going really hard on the side stuff right now.
Cool.
As it comes up, I'm just doing everything, and it's a lot more involved, or the stories are a lot more intricate and longer than they were in previous games. A lot of times in the previous games, you just run up and you'd have a quick 5-second or 1 minute interaction with some people and maybe choose some dialogue or something, and it's oh, it's over. But now in Like a Dragon, they're much longer stories, and you're kind of running back to places after you're running across town and meeting up with a bunch of different people, and they're much more interesting stories, but still extremely strange.
That's great.
yeah, it's on. My plan is to pop that in for a few hours, play the beginning stuff to see if it looks really nice and loads fast on playing the PS4 version on the PS5. I'll probably just keep playing it, and then I don't know. I don't really want to get to a position where I'm halfway through it and the PS5 version comes out. That feels like it would suck.
It's supposed to be March.
But it's not until March. It's kind of a bit of a ways off. I mean, I have plenty of stuff to play, but
Yeah.
I would like to play that earlier than that. So we'll see.
I'm having a real good time with it. I did a quest or a side story earlier tonight with a guy called Mr. Masochist. Who his whole thing is he just wants to someone who can make him feel pain again, because he has felt so much pain that he no longer is moved by the dominatrixes of the world. And
That's how it works.
He's I don't feel anything. And then he I one point he gets stabbed by a knife as he defends somebody, and he's I still don't feel anything. The knife couldn't cut me. It's what?
I heard more about the job system in that game, and it made me way more intrigued to actually play it.
Yeah, so they're literally jobs. Like you're
Yeah.
going to like a temp agency and swapping your
Yes,
jobs.
it's very funny.
Yeah, you're going to like it's the actual like Japanese job agency Hello Work, which is also very funny. It's not fake. It's like my girlfriend has gone there to like apply for jobs and stuff.
All the I still think, and I need to see it myself to really grasp it. I still have a hard time with the like. It sounds like they do a really good job of talking about like poverty and sex work, but then also you get into a fight and it's like you're fighting a belch monster and it's a homeless guy who has really bad breath because they're homeless.
I mean, they just call them like battle bums or something like that.
There was a
which is
specific name that I can't remember now that I heard them talking about on the Giant Bombcast that I was like, that sucks. That's not, that kind of betrays your good stance when you make people into punchlines.
I believe I might be misquoting, but I think it was Hungry Hungry Hobo.
Yes, that's a shitty name for an enemy.
Yeah.
That is like, it's hard for me to take you seriously in your like heartfelt, real examination of the issue and then name an NPC that.
I also, well, that I don't know how much of that is like localization versus
totally. Yeah, absolutely.
So
Totally fair. Yeah.
And I'm going to play it either way, but I think it's hard for me to, sometimes it's hard for me to hear like a lot of praise about the game when I know that stuff is in there, and it's kind of like it irks me, I guess, a little bit. But I also am excited to play it because it seems
I'm looking forward to that stuff because I've heard that when they actually talk about the homeless people stories, that they're actually really nuanced and great.
This game more like the previous Yakuza games were often about like real estate or like more personal, like, you know, everyone wants Kiryu dead or whatever. Like Kiryu became such a larger than life character, where like the second game in the series was all about like, at least as far as I've gotten, is like someone wanting to take him out because they want to be like the baddest motherfucker.
Yeah.
And then like, you know, there's real estate and like, you know, giant like secret warships
and like saving a child and stuff.
Yeah.
It's all very, I mean, 6 is the only time. Well, I guess that's not true because there's like the stuff with the Korea too, but
Korea 2?
No.
Yep.
Yes.
There's a second Korea.
too.
It's they have to keep it under wraps.
But a lot of Kiryu stories are like those very much like it's centered around him for sure. Whereas it sounds like this one is a little more about the community as a whole.
Yeah, it's like it's very much about like kind of marginalized, at least in Japan, marginalized communities like the homeless and like the sex industry.
Yeah,
and
that stuff sounds great too. So
yeah, it does a lot to like make these people just like, hey, they're people, and you're helping them with like their problems and a lot of sub stories, and like it does a lot to like, hey, these are just like normal people.
Yeah,
and you know they've like had a bad break, but you know they're capable of changing and not just being what Rocky might call a bum. This is the worst thing you can call Rocky. So never call Rocky a bum.
This is related but unrelated. If anyone out there doesn't want to play a 80-hour game and have those kind of feels or whatever this is, 60, 70, 80, a billion. If there's anyone there who doesn't want that, but you want a really good story which involves humanizing homeless people and is Japanese, watch Hinamatsuri. It is an anime, and there's a whole arc in there that like it's a comedy show, like 100% comedy, until it gets to this one part where it hits extremely heavy, and it's like the saddest thing I can think of.
All right.
Anyways,
yeah. Do want to say so like on the topic of like the way it kind of tackle like names homeless people and maybe kind of betrays some of its like story writing with the way it tackles people. Game Informer ran a story titled "I Love How Yakuza Like a Dragon Humanizes Homelessness" by Liana Rupert.
Oh,
I believe that's how you say her name.
Yeah.
And she talks about kind of her experiences with homelessness and how that impacts her interpretation of the game. So maybe go check that out too. That's just one view. But
it's a good article.
yeah, it's definitely something to be critical of with like the localization. I can't speak to the Japanese
for
names
sure.
of that stuff, but
Mm.
but it's, I think the overall story so far has been really engaging and interesting,
Cool.
and it's yeah.
And I mean, it's not as if Yakuza games have had plenty of instances of kind of fumbling a little bit with some
yes.
details
Yes.
in terms of how they handle certain subjects. So I mean,
it paints with a broad brush.
Yeah,
yes,
subtlety has not always been their forte.
and I still would prefer they try to tackle these things and miss the mark by a bit than just like not touch them. So certainly, I mean, I think criticism is warranted, but I also am not suggesting people like start a boycott over the hungry hobo or whatever his name is.
Yeah, but like I'm just glad Yakuza games continue to get made because that series is so weird and like so unique.
I think there's always going to be an audience for that thing. Like I think in the way that they managed to make a second Shenmue game, like not that I think Yakuza is a lot better than Shenmue.
Oh yes,
but of course, but but I don't know that the industry could sustain multiple franchises that do the Yakuza thing necessarily, like large studio.
I think
budget games.
If you broke it off into like its own distinct thing that wasn't just like, and here's like open, like, modern day open world RPG.
Yeah, I guess the thing about Like a Dragon is it's a JRPG, right? So it's kind of entering that genre now.
Yes.
Whereas,
but it's not like the only real difference is that the combat is turn-based. Like it's so similar to everything else is very similar. But you've got like, you do have some equipment that like, you've got like your headpiece and your weapon and stuff like that, which is, you had like a little bit of that in the previous Yakuza games, but not as much as you do here.
Yeah.
And you have a party. But it's very, it's very like Persona kind of in a lot of the ways. They have social links with your party members. And like you can tag people in and out and take advantage of weaknesses and knock people down and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
I have heard. No,
sorry,
go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, do you do any pocket circuit racing?
There is not pocket circuit racing, but there is just like go-kart racing. It's just straight up Mario Kart.
Yeah, I've seen clips of that.
It's not as good as Mario Kart. It's much more bootleg, but
it's based on the like Mario Kart racing places that Nintendo shut down, right?
Yeah, it is kind of based on the like Mario Kart touring.
Yeah.
Those places did not actually shut down, but they did get sued and have to pay some money, I believe. But
I'm glad they're not. I'm glad they still exist.
If they're open.
Of course not. I would doubt it, but
yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Pat.
Oh no, I heard Ben Pack was talking about on Twitter how he hit a difficulty spike like 50 or 60 hours in. That sucks. That's what sounds unfortunate.
So I don't know if, I don't know how far, but I was reading in the tweet, like in the responses, like, hey, you should go, like you should have done this thing like that opens right before it, because it will make it much like basically it levels you far past where you need to be. But it sucks that he got stuck there. But I had like, I don't think I'm that far, but I did have like a thing where I was like, oh, okay, this thing opened up and I might be going into a spot, so maybe I need to do this thing. I'm in like halfway through the main story,
and maybe they telegraph it really well. I think in any case like that, if you have a super mechanical game, an NPC should go, you should really wait to start doing this until you think you're ready.
Sure.
I mean, the game does tell you like, hey, you should at least be level like 15 to go in this place for this next story stuff. And that's what it did for the last kind of story thing I did.
It's possible that it did that, and he was like, how would I get to level this? I guess I'm just going to go in.
I'm not that far, but now that I know that it's there, I'm going to try and avoid running into that issue. I'm making like tons of different saves, so like every time I save is like new slot. So hopefully I won't run into any issues like that. We got off it like at the beginning of the conversation, but the job system is very interesting and like goofy, because they're all like actual jobs that people have. Like some of them are actual jobs,
like Piss Wizard.
Yeah.
That I have not seen Piss Wizard, but I guess is that a job?
From what I've heard, it is. I don't know.
Because it's like I've been a break dancer. I've had like an enforcer, like a riot cop, an idol, and like a busker, a musician.
Wait, so
Yeah.
like Ichiban has been an idol, or you have worked with
No,
idols?
no. So I've had an idol in my group.
Okay.
So I think he could be though.
Huh.
But no, I had Ichiban was my break dancer.
Okay.
And he's much like Majima breakdances and Yakuza 0. And each of the jobs has like different move sets, and right now I just changed my job, so I've got Ichiban as a chef. I've got my homeless buddy Nanba as a bodyguard who wields a katana. I've got the lady who runs the like snack shop. She is a card dealer and just wields a fan of cards and like throws them and stuff like that. I've got the other lady in my crew is a dominatrix, and then the other guy is like a nightclub host.
What does a dominatrix map to in like a standard RPG?
She can, so one of her moves, she does a lot of brainwashing, which is like, I'm going to make you attack your homies.
So like status effect kind of stuff.
Yeah, but specifically brainwash. And then they like map all the moves to like specific like animations. So it's like, this one, you're going to stick the heel of your shoe in this guy's face, and then maybe you'll brainwash him. And so then she does it, and it's like, that looks like it hurts. So yeah, it's neat. I want to get some of the more like interesting jobs, but you have to like build up the social links, and that's like tied to story progression too. So like you have to spend time with the people, and then you have to advance the story far enough to get like, okay, it's like, it's annoying because I'll be doing things that should be building up like our link, but it can't build up anymore because I haven't like built up the social link to the next level, but I can't because I'm not far enough in the story.
Yeah.
And I'm not even like trying to like build up the social link. Like I'm not trying to grind stuff out. It's just happening really quick. So it's a little annoying, but the stories are really good and interesting.
Yeah. So it's almost like an artificial barrier. It's like you want to continue, but you literally can't.
Yeah. I would like to just be able to, see the story and make my character more powerful, but I can't.
Right.
But
Gotcha.
Whatever, it's okay. Some of them like, because they level up at different speeds, so some of them I can like go, and then some I have to wait longer.
No, it's cool.
Yeah, it's really good. I'm really enjoying it. It's quickly climbing my game of the year. So yeah,
Sick. Yeah,
Yakuza Like a Dragon.
Looking forward to getting into it, or deeper into it than I am. I'm like still half an hour in. Which is nothing.
Yeah, you've watched a cutscene,
basically.
Well, for other games we played this week, Pat, I know you've been playing either an open world game or a not open world game.
Yeah. I've almost exclusively played Assassin's Creed and Black Ops Cold War this week. Cold War with my buds. But I played a little bit of something else too. But yeah,
Cracking open a Cold War with the bud.
We've had a lot of fun with the fact that it's called Cold War, and we call our gaming time Cold One's time. And there's a lot of like, what time are we cracking coldies later, etc., which just is very fun with Cold War. And not to go on a long tangent about it, but the multiplayer in Cold War is quite fun. It's like they put Nuketown in this week. It's a good map. And we started getting into their Fire Team Dirty Bomb, which is a hilarious name for a mode. But it's like 10 4-player teams have to compete over filling up these bombs around the map with uranium that you get from opening boxes, that like Battle Royale style. And then you fill it up and have to sit on the point and detonate it. And since there's a total of 40 players in the match on 10 different squads, it's very chaotic because you can see like, oh, point A is, and you spawn like in a Battle Royale, you drop in from the sky, but the map is like a super small map for that kind of thing. It's still really big compared to other maps. But anyway,
So it's chaotic. Does it have his Knuckles chaotics there?
no, I don't think there's a lot of licensed characters I want them to put in Cold War, but I don't think I could live with Sonic.
You know, you can't put Sonic. You got to put in Shadow because Shadow has a gun.
I would pay the full cost of another copy of the game if they would put the protagonist from The Boys into this game. I think they would fit really well in. If I could be like Carl Urban, Billy Butcher, and he said a lot of the lines from the show, I would pay a lot of money for that. But that's good. I've also been playing a lot of Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Wait! I just have to get this out of my system. Call of Duty Green Hill Zone.
Oh God.
Okay, continue.
Ugh. Don't make me start reading Ready Player 2 quotes.
Oh no.
I'll get everyone.
That's the rest of the podcast,
quick.
Everybody.
I've been playing a lot of Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Also, I have 60 hours in it now, over like a week and a half or
Nice.
whatever. I've almost played as much Assassin's Creed as I have worked. Actually, that's not true, but still, in normal times. That game is really great. I think it's like super good and improves on. I think the story in Origins stands on its own. I don't really think that one is better than the other because Origins has a super unique story that's about like grief and like how the loss of a child affects the relationship of the parents and power structures, and it's a really cool story. And I don't know that I'd say Odyssey's story is better, but it's also very good. And gameplay wise, they improve on everything in Origins a lot in Odyssey. So I like can't recommend it highly enough to people who like The Witcher, that style of open world. I think there's a lot of people who kind of give the Assassin's Creed games at this point flack as being like checklist games. I don't think I agree with that assessment. I think it's really easy to make that judgment if you play like 5 or 10 hours of it and then say you're done. But there's a lot more there the deeper you go into it, both from a mechanical perspective and narratively. There's really interesting stuff that happens from like a narrative design perspective, the deeper you get into the game.
For some reason, I fell off the game right when it was starting to get interesting.
Yes, you did.
Like, you know,
it's funny.
Like it was like, you know, I had other stuff coming up, other games and like other stuff to do in life. But yeah, like I got to the part on like I don't know, like the second area you go off to the tutorial place and like where you kind of meet some cult people and like start to get an idea of like what the story is. And then went to like some island, then I went to like another random island, and then there was a Cyclops on the island. And I was like, excuse me?
Yeah. So it's interesting that was your reveal for that stuff. I think one thing about Odyssey that is different than Origins is I actually don't think so. I played the first half of Origins by like 100%ing every zone that I went to before moving on with the story. And then it became clear that it was going to take me like another 50 hours to finish the story and I needed to get on with it. And then I ended up finishing the story super fast because I was already over leveled by doing everything. Which with Odyssey, they kind of had this option in Origins, but they refined it with Odyssey. You can turn it off so that you can over level, or by default, it makes it so everything is always leveled up to be like a couple levels lower than you. So nothing is ever trivial unless you want it to be.
That's kind of cool.
Which I think is, it's smart. The fact that they give you the option is nice. But the thing about Odyssey that's interesting is it doesn't narratively make sense. This is my biggest criticism of it. It doesn't narratively make a lot of sense for you to be murdering everyone until later. This isn't really a spoiler, but until later on in the plot. Like Cassandra doesn't have a reason to go to a Spartan castle and kill everyone there in like the earlier parts of the game. A lot of stuff happens over the course of the story that makes you understand like why she might be mad at everyone. But that also kind of depends on how you want to play her too.
But
so
there's treasure in there and they don't want me in there to take the treasure. So I got to kill everybody.
So it's definitely like I think the point being, I think the best way to play that game is kind of to stick with the story and then do the side stuff later, because it makes the story gives a lot more setup as to why she would be roaming around Greece doing all this random stuff. If you play, I mean, I'm not done with it, but I think I'm in around the final act and I can kind of see some of the places it's going. But the point to the Cyclops thing, like I didn't, because I was mostly doing Critical Path, I didn't really encounter any of the mythical beast stuff until it came up in a quest, and it was like, I mean, it would have been a best moment contender for me in 2018 because it was so fucking cool the way that they introduced this mythical creature. And what I love about it is they did the thing I want them to do, which most people are going to be like, this is stupid, but it's not. I mean, in Assassin's Creed Origins, there's mythical stuff, but it's all like an animus simulation, a glitch, or like an artifact made you see an illusion. In Odyssey, the conceit is actually because the ancients, like that race of ancients that the whole series centers around, were like super technologically advanced. They just bioengineered these crazy monsters, which is really cool to me. And I dig it. And it's fun. That stuff is kind of designed to be more post game. The idea is the game has like 3 story branches, kind of, and one of them is that, and one of them is like Cassandra's story, and then there's like the cult stuff, and they all intertwine, but they're kind of leveled to split you off into doing them at different times. So I have to finish the kind of Cassandra story, which mostly mixes with the cult stuff, and then I can do the artifacts, which tied into the Atlantis stuff. But I don't know, it's a cool game. The way gear works in that game is really neat. Makes me really excited for Valhalla because I hear it's even better in Valhalla. But those games are definitely like the perfect balm for me for stuff like Destiny, because they it's not that I think they're better designed, but they're like, they have some of those ideas and concepts with the way they handle gear, but because it's a single player game, they can give it to you all the time and they don't have to worry as much about like balancing it out. So you can kind of make an overpowered build and it's fine because it's single player, and who are you competing with? Which is really neat. So you can like mix and match armor sets that have pretty specific bonuses and can do like weird and cool stuff, and then further modify them yourself and enhance them all to be end game viable. And it makes for some really fun stuff, and you get fun numbers. Like I do 53,000 damage with my assassin attacks.
Well, what did you do at the start of the game? Like, I don't really get this. I don't understand the scale of it.
I think like 35 damage for a normal attack and a few hundred for an assassin attack.
How do y'all feel about like those kinds of numbers in like RPGs? Are you like, I want like this, I want to start at like 35 and I want to feel real good when I break 100, or do you want to do 53,000 damage?
I think the reason that it works is because of the scale of the game.
No, yeah. But I just mean in general, like RPG, like Persona does the lower numbers, like like maybe you'll break 1,000. And then like Final Fantasy is like, oh baby, break the numbers.
Yeah. I certainly don't love the way that when you start a Final Fantasy game, it's like you do the first combat encounter and then it shows the experience and it's like, oh, this character started at level 6. To me, that's like, why didn't you start them all level 1? But I also,
they wouldn't know anything then, man.
I think the huge numbers are fun and I think the small numbers are fun. The thing to me that matters the most is being able to break the numbers down. So the reason that I like it in Assassin's Creed is I can say that like I do 53,000 assassin damage and I do about 2,500 damage with a heavy attack. So I know that an assassination attack is like 20 times what I can do by just like hitting the right trigger. So it makes it, and then when I can kill an enemy in one hit, I start to go like, okay, so that means that since I did this much damage to them with an assassin attack, I can start to think about like, this is probably how many attacks with a heavy attack it would take me to do. And then I love that they scale it out to like the boat stuff. So I know that with ramming damage, I do 243,000 damage.
Okay.
Because the boat hit points scale with people hit points, like they're on the same scale. So I don't know. That stuff is fun to me.
It's just like, you know,
silly, but
how they scale it, and like, you know, 200 like could it just be like 243 instead of 243,000 or whatever?
It could, but then when I was level 1, I would have done like 0.4 damage.
Yeah.
You know, and it doesn't, the thing, we were talking about this in the chat, but in our chat, but the thing is that with Destiny, I understand that a lot of those numbers exist and some of them are surfaced and some of them are mathed, but all that matters really is your light level or your power level, whatever. And I think breaking that single number out is helpful in a lot of cases, but for me, I don't care if you say like, your power 143, I don't know what that means.
I mean, well, the light level only matters, like it matters to a point in like how much damage, because it modifies your damage that you're going to do to enemies with the same thing. And then like, you know, every weapon has its own DPS
exactly
stuff, but how exactly that like goes out, I'm not entirely sure.
I like that in a system like Assassin's Creed, it's just like enemies at level 1 had 100 hit points and I did 10 damage per attack. Now at level 35, enemies have, you know, 30,000 hit points and I do 300 damage per attack or whatever. I like that kind of like scale where I can just see the raw numbers and there isn't a bunch of math that I have to do to understand how the numbers work. But also 98% of people that play Assassin's Creed Odyssey aren't going to even fucking pay attention to the numbers. They're just going to mash the right bumper when they get into combat. So I don't mean to suggest that it's some kind of transcendent system that's like better than anything else. It's just I was surprised to the degree at which I found the numbers and the gear stuff satisfying, when I didn't expect really to care one way or the other about that. Instead, I'm like going through my chest of legendary equipment, like, oh, if I level this up, then I can use this with this, and then I'll get an extra 20% assassin damage, and I can assassinate anyone.
Yeah,
and it's, I don't know, it's fun.
You're min-maxing.
Yeah, and it's enjoyable to engage in that stuff. Not really necessary, but they did get the difficulty in a lot better place. Origins is super easy. I played like 90% of the game on Nightmare, and then the ending bosses were too hard on that difficulty for me. So, but I'm playing Odyssey on normal, and it feels pretty good.
Couldn't beat the Egyptian Pope in a fist fight on Nightmare.
It's a lot closer to that than what you probably think.
Okay. Of course. Like the Pharaoh, that's the Egyptian Pope.
You don't ever kill a Pharaoh, actually.
And you don't kill the Pope either.
That's true. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, those are good games. I'm hoping I can wrap up the base game of Assassin's Creed today and then play the DLC hopefully over the next week so that I can play other games before the end of the year. The problem with those games, to your point earlier, Andre, they're very easy to fall off of. If you're like, I don't think it's a commentary on their quality, but if you're like, I'm going to step away and play this game for a week, you might never go back.
I know. At this point, I know what those games are. So there's no like, I don't know. I never feel, at least so far, what I've played of Origins and Odyssey, which are the most recent ones I've played. I didn't find anything in the time I spent with them that was like, oh wow, this is like new and exciting. Where it sounds like there's some stuff in there that actually is. Once you get to it, but it's like, okay, the story's like starting to get kind of interesting, but like mechanically I'm like, I get it.
It's less that it's like new and exciting and more that the ways it combines different ideas, the way they blend them together in an open world context, I think is really interesting.
Sure.
And fun. What were you going to say, Alex?
I was going to say, do you intend to get to Valhalla in the next month?
I would like to try it, to start it. I'm not going to try to play through the whole thing in a month. That one I kind of want to have as a sort of background game to play as I go. Because while you can fall off of them easily, I think that's also okay too, because they're not so complicated that narratively that you can't come back to them. I think and systems wise, I mean, they're not super complex. It's just like 3 different kinds of fighting, basically. It's like if you had The Witcher, but Geralt also had a bow and not just a crossbow, but like a bow and arrow, and could assassinate people. That's kind of it. But I think the stuff that I think that they do that is interesting is the mercenary stuff is cool. It's sort of Nemesis system-y, not quite as deep. And the Cult of Cosmos stuff is cool. It's like neat because you have to explore the world to find clues to uncover them and then go to where they are and kill them. And then it also does some cool narrative choice stuff that where the ways it makes your choices pop up. You're like, oh fuck, I did pick that. I guess you got me. And that's cool. There's been numerous times when my choices have come back in ways that I didn't expect, but that make a lot of sense. And I was really impressed.
Hoisted by your own petard.
Totally. And it doesn't ever feel like, I don't feel like I want to go back and reload a save. It's more like, well, if I had done the other thing, then this would have happened. So I guess I got to live with these consequences. The other ones would have been bad too. So yeah, it's cool. I also touched a little bit on Fuser after Allison's discussion of it last week. I felt compelled to pick it up, and I'm not disappointed that I did, because that game is pretty cool. I went in with very low expectations for the campaign stuff, and I think it's actually pretty fun. It's not like, I think you should still set your expectations pretty carefully. It's not Rock Band, it's not DJ Hero, but it's fun and it's engaging, and it's a fun way to learn how to use the tools. And then the breadth of control you have over stuff in the freestyle mode is wild. It definitely is an impressive piece of software there.
Is it a good game or is it a good toy?
I have to see what it looks like playing against another person, I think.
Right.
Because the campaign, they score you, basically you have your mix, right? You have your 4 different discs, which is, I mean, whatever you want to call them, but they're like parts of songs. So you'll have like the vocal part, the drum part, and very quickly you can get to the point where you could just have 4 different drum tracks playing if you wanted to. So you can mix and match however you want. And the game part of it, I'm going to try to explain this because I had been desperate for someone to try to explain it, and everyone on podcasts doesn't really explain it. So bear with me. Skip ahead if this is technical and boring for you. Basically, there is a crowd meter like you would get in like a Rock Band or whatever.
Sure.
And if your mix sits for too long without you changing it, the crowd meter starts to drop. And
so they're millennials. They get
get bored.
They need things that just
and it's
change
tuned
all the time.
pretty well. It feels like you can sit there for a second and kind of enjoy your mix and not have to literally be hammering a button every 2 seconds, but also that you do have to change it. So that piece of the scoring puzzle, I think it's 32 bars, but I'm not sure. Maybe that's too long. But every so often in the song, it'll hit the end of like a section, and it's not really like the section of a song. It's more like a section of your set, because the songs will just loop. But you'll hit like a section of your set, and you get a score based on what the crowd meter is at. So to max it out, you have to keep the crowd meter maxed out, but you only have to have it maxed out at the point at which it tracks your points. And I think that's the weakest part of the system. Is it's like, it's hard sometimes it has a meter for when that timer is going to tick off and it's going to count your points. But sometimes it feels like, oh, that's hitting at a time that is like frustrating.
Interesting. So sorry, just to clarify, it's not cumulative. Like it's not everything up until that point. It's literally within some window that it's scoring.
Yeah. It looks at your meter, and if the meter is maxed, it gives you the max points for that scoring mechanic. There's several other ones. So the other thing, when you drop like parts onto the platters, if you do it on a downbeat, you get a certain amount of bonus points. But what you really want to do is drop it at a specific pickup, is what they call them, which is where it's like, this is like you want to drop it right when Billie Eilish says, "I'm the bad guy." You want the song to come in. So when you hover over a track, it gives you, or a song in your crate, it gives you on the like sort of timeline of the song, and you see your header move over the timeline as it goes. You'll see like a little red dot. And that means if you drop it right on that beat, if you drop the vocals right on that beat, that's a pickup. So it's like an interesting beat in the song that like sounds good. So you get the most points for your drops if they're on pickups. So if you want to play at maximum efficiency, you should only be dropping tracks on the pickups. But you also have to keep the mix fresh. So that's where that timing can become a bit of a battle, because you want to make sure that you have the crowd meter maxed out for when the section ticks over, so you get your score. But you also want to try to drop stuff on pickups because you get bonus points for dropping them on pickups. And then on top of that, there are crowd requests that will come up. So the crowd will pop up, like a speech bubble will pop up and say, like, someone will be like, I really want to hear drums. And somebody else will be like, I really want to hear Temperature, the Sean Paul song. So if you can combo those, and if you drop the drums from Temperature on a pickup, then you're going to get a huge combo score because you satisfied both crowd requests, which are also on timers themselves, and they'll tick down and you can fail them. So it's sort of combining all this stuff can get pretty challenging, and feels good to do, because you still feel like you hit those moments where you're like, fuck yeah, that was awesome.
This might sound like a weird comparison, but it kind of sounds like a rhythm game equivalent of Cook Serve Delicious.
To an extent, yes. I think it's as close to Cook Serve Delicious as it is to Rock Band, for sure. The thing is that for the campaign challenges, you can basically choose the lowest BPM song, and it makes everything significantly easier because everything is tied to the beat. The section's ticking over, crowd requests running out, like all of that's tied to the beat. So, and then in later campaign levels, once they give you control of the BPM, you can manually just set it to 90. So you have the most time. Yeah. So you can kind of cheese it, and that makes it feel a little less like good, but
less magical.
Yes. But they have a fairly robust system of DJ battles where there's actually like a season pass kind of thing. It's not, you don't have to pay for it or anything. It's just in there. And there's a ladder. So it has like, I don't know what it would be like to play on the ladder. I think it could be really fun to try to manage all this stuff against another person, because you can't just, at that point, you can use the BPM, because I assume the way it works is you're throwing back and forth and trying to beat each other. It's like horse kind of. Well, not like horse, because you're not doing the exact same thing, but you're trying to, like, I set the tempo and set up a mix, and then the mix goes over to you, and then you riff off of my mix and try to score points, and then it comes back to me. I think that's how it works, because it wouldn't make sense for you to be playing simultaneously, because like, how would that function?
It'd be like that Battle of the Bands in Scott Pilgrim.
No, I don't think it's like that.
Can you play the We Are Sex Bomb and We're Here to Make You Feel Sad and stuff? So
I wouldn't be surprised if they add that eventually.
But it kind of sounds like, I forget the name of, when you put it that way, it sounds like it's like a board game, but not actually a board game. It's the one where you're drawing something, and then someone else like sees your last drawing and then continues it.
I know what you're talking about. I forgot what that's called.
Yeah, it's almost something like that.
Drawsome?
Yeah,
it's Drawsome.
Maybe Drawsome.
I mean, there's a million variations and that kind of thing.
But yeah, so that's kind of cool that it's keeping track of all that stuff and then letting people kind of build off of that. That's neat.
But it's like a one-on-one thing too, so it's very back and forth. You can do it in a freestyle mode that's more like cooperative with friends in like kind of private games.
That's cool.
And then they also have this like social festival thing where you can submit a freestyle mix. They like theme it, and I think they limit your track options, and that doesn't have any of the scoring stuff related to it at all. It's just like you submit a mix, and then people literally listen to your mix and vote on it. And then there are rewards based on, like, you don't have to necessarily win the votes, but by contributing mixes and voting on other people's mixes, you unlock more cosmetic stuff too, which is really cool. I think they did a really good job of like making it more of a platform than I thought. That's the stuff I didn't know about from hearing people talk about it. Is it has a lot of features built in that make the game parts last longer than just the campaign. And the campaign is long. It's like 7 hours long. So it's a cool game. I would say if you're on the fence and you've kind of been wondering if it's worth the money, I think it justifies itself as the product that it is. I thought it was like a 2-hour campaign that wasn't very good with this toy element, but I think there's a lot more game there than that, and I've had fun playing it. I will say playing it on a controller seems like not the way to play it to me, but maybe that's just a preference thing. That it works really well on mouse and keyboard, because you like mouse over a track and then they tie each song has 4 stems basically, and they tie them to ASDF. So as to like the platters, I should say, not the stems.
Sure.
So you mouse over the stem you want, and then you hit the platter button that's associated with it, and it drops it. So you can very quickly drop like 4 tracks onto the different platters if you're with a mouse. I can't imagine that would be enjoyable if you're like cursoring around with a controller. But I mean, it would tie at least to the face buttons, the drop parts, but you would have to be selecting the stems with a controller, which seems rough to me.
That would be fun. Fuser VR.
Oh hell yeah, that would be awesome. I bet they'll
pull a Stevie Aoki and throw a cake in VR.
I'll say too, they have a pretty
G.G. Allen. I'm not going to finish that joke.
God. The stages are really cool visually, and I think the characters in the story mode are really fun. The Harmonix does I think a great job with like coming up with fun, colorful characters.
Totally.
Like the first character is like this pretty standard but a cool guy, like Caribbean, like Latin fusion kind of dance guy. And then like the second character you meet is like, and the characters are tied to stages. The second character you meet is like this kid who's a rapper, and he wears like a hat, like a full head cover mask thing like DJs do.
Like you're like a deadmau5er.
Yes, and he's like 9 years old, but he acts like he's hot shit and like talks about how he's the best rapper in the world and stuff. But they made his stage like ice cream and corgis.
Right.
And he's like arguing with his mom about how they fucked up his stage on the phone all the time. And then the third stage is this like non-binary, super like trance into person who is like kind of stonery and really likes empanadas. And they have like really cool, like it shouldn't be, but it was still kind of cool that it was like, oh, they use they them pronouns and are obviously non-binary. That's awesome just to see this character there. But then also they're a really engaging, interesting character in my opinion, and funny. So I don't know. I think it has a really cool vibe as a package and is definitely worth your time if you like music festivals as a concept. Even if you don't think you're super creative, you'll enjoy playing the game part, I think. And if you are inclined to get into sort of the mixing stuff, it's a really robust tool in that way. I think for me, the thing that is cool about it is I can download like Ableton or whatever, like the trials for this stuff and kind of come to understand how to use them. But the problem I run into is always like, okay, but now I got to find a crate full of stems. And in some cases you can do that kind of easily. In some cases it's like, well, I don't really want to pirate this stuff. And so
some things just don't have stems available.
Right. And what's cool about Fuser is it removes that barrier by just giving you a ton of songs to work with across genres, so that you can kind of get the basics of how this stuff works down. And if that's enough for you, cool. But if you then wanted to graduate to something that's more professional, then you already have the basics down. You already have like an understanding of how some of the concepts work. And then you can go on the hunt for like, how do people actually get music? Rather than having to do that just to experiment.
Yeah, it's a curated training wheels experience, but not in like a reductive way. Like
no, yeah, absolutely, that's totally accurate.
The world's next Neil Cicierega is playing Fuser right now.
I mean, it has
Or will be playing Fuser in the near future.
I mean, DJ Cumberbund already exists, but
the only thing I wish that Fuser had, which in the training wheel sense, I think it would be cool, is I wish that it just told you the real BPM of a song in the like on the little cover that it gives you in the crate, because sometimes like Ironic is a good example. If I'm feeling goofy and I want to drop Ironic, but I don't realize like,
God.
The BPM is currently at 160 because I'm playing some insane dance track. I don't really want Alanis Morissette to sing that fast.
Sean Paul's Temperature.
Yes. And then you put Ironic over that and it's like, oh wow, doesn't sound good because it's sped up. So it would be cool to just, if it was just like, wait, I'm at this BPM, this song is originally at this BPM, I should probably bring it down before I throw this on the platter. That would be cool, but that's a very minor complaint.
The sentence you said there broke my brain for a moment. The if I'm feeling goofy and I want to drop Ironic, it's like my brain went like, okay, goofy as in like the dog. Yeah. Drop Ironic. It must be some drug reference.
Where are we dropping, boys?
Yeah.
I want to drop Ironic with Goofy. Get fucking wrecked.
Yep.
Like the
Well, gee, Pat, I want to drop Ironic with you.
If any listeners have been to Disney World, you'll know that in the Magic Kingdom there's like Mickey's Village or whatever, and it's charming. And it would be very funny to like go there for the fireworks show and find a strung out Goofy and
Jesus,
just drop acid with Goofy.
God, it's still
go to Universal Studios Village where they have DJs play at night.
Dropping Ironic with Goofy is what happens in Kingdom Hearts 2 when he dies.
Okay, if Donald Duck is the most powerful mage in all of Final Fantasy, what is Goofy? Yeah. Is he the most powerful just chucklehead or what?
He's not most powerful anything. He dies.
And he comes back to life.
Yes.
So he's stronger than Aerith.
So he's the strongest Evanescence. Bring me to life.
Aerith could have come back at any time.
Hey. Speaking of Fuser, Bring Me to Life is in Fuser.
Yeah,
let me tell you, there are some moments when dropping, if you can find where like in the song where the rap rock part of Bring Me to Life, if you've got like the drums from Temperature going with the synth part from Bad Guy, and I love to use
Wake Me Up.
Yeah, I love to use In the Club, the 50 Cent song, the rap from that, like the vocals from that, like works with everything.
Wake me up.
But
in
then
the club.
Exactly, you can totally do that because you can like mute the tracks.
Oh, good.
And like crossfade back and forth between them.
Oh, that is actually DJ kind of shit. That's great.
I need to build out the controls a little bit more because by default you have to mouse over the track to be able to to mute it and solo it.
So
but
between this and that Spin Rhythm, it's time for you to get a turntable, it sounds like. And
so I actually
MIDI
would
controller.
totally, I don't know how deep their support for that stuff in Fuser goes. I think if you got into it, it could be super fun to get a MIDI controller and kind of like interact with the game in that way. It certainly is robust enough that it has, you could totally do it if they support it. Like it's deep enough. It's a deep enough feature set that if you had a 4-platter MIDI controller or even just one with like buttons for different tracks, like you mute, solo, and fade different tracks. And if it would let you control them each independently that way, it would work. I could see it being tough for like the competitive play because that could be advantageous to you. So maybe they'd have to disable it there, but it would be neat if they would add support for that. Because it would work and be awesome.
Yeah. It's so weird that this is just what that card game was. Drop Mix.
Drop Mix.
Yeah,
like,
it's a lot
different,
better,
but yes, like
that was the genesis of this.
It's the sensible way to do it.
Yes.
To do that thing.
Yeah. And obviously, it sounds way better too because you can do it on your real headphones instead of coming out of shitty iPad speakers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Wow. That's Fuser.
Man, I will say the biggest thing, the thing that's probably going to get Fuser on my game of the year list, even over something like Spin Rhythm,
is temperature.
No, I think Spin Rhythm is a better rhythm game than Fuser, but at the same time, Fuser just it does. Have you ever seen the video of the like this is what DJs do, and it's the guy with like the plastic cup, and it's like he's just like turning the crank, and then the drop happens, and he like jumps away at the drop and stuff, and is like doing it gives you that feeling of like, okay, wait for it, and then bam, I hit the D key and like did a flourish in my living room because it felt really good to do, even though no one can see it, kind of thing. Because sometimes
played Closer Flies.
Well, and things like sometimes you're playing one mix and then all of a sudden you're like, you know what? I just want to play the entirety of Killing in the Name of right now. So you hover over Killing in the Name of, and you just like pound all 4 of the keys for dropping the tracks, and you drop all of that song at once. And it feels really good. It's cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's Fuser. And Alex says he didn't play any new games this week.
Nope.
So that's going to do it for our game talk. But you want to talk about the thing you did do this week?
Oh yeah. So
or at least give a taste or something.
Yeah, just drop a clip in. But no. We've been talking about how I was looking to do a coding kind of episode or podcast or series or whatever it ends up being. And that is recorded. That is ready to go. That is ready to be put out. That is ready for people to listen to. I had written, this one's fully written. It's not improv-y and jokey as like these ones. It's actually more educational. And I had written it like a month ago, maybe 2. I can't even remember because 2020. But I went through it and I was getting ready to record. I was like, you know what? This isn't great. Too much content, not enough time. Like it would have been like an hour long, super dense. And I was like, no. So totally rewrote it, took out like half the stuff and just expanded on the other stuff. And it's now like a half hour of content that's reasonably dense, but like you'll probably want to actively listen to it, but it's still digestible. It's not too crazy.
What are we programming here? We doing like bots to buy new next gen consoles? We doing
Yep.
What are we doing?
Yeah, that's the whole point of the entire series, is that it's going to give you ways to get into being a scalper.
Okay.
No. The first episode,
your own next gen hardware, whether it be PC or new phone or anything you want.
Don't do that. That stuff is so scummy. The first episode is what is coding. It is ways you can get into it. What is the practice of coding, and then the next episode.
This is a mouse. This is a keyboard.
Yep. Put this together. Keyboard, mouse.
Yeah. There you go. KBM. There. That's everything you need to code right there. Just keyboard and mouse. You don't even need the mouse. You just need a keyboard.
Mouse, pineapple, papple, pen. Anyways, and then I have a second episode that I'm working on, which is more like what it's like day-to-day life of actually being a dev and like resources for how to get there and stuff like that. So like it is meant to be more educational. And as of right now, the first 2 episodes at least are solo casts. And I'm hoping to, I don't know, we'll figure out what day of the week they'll go up and try and do it like every 2 weeks, maybe.
Okay.
Something like that. Cool. And then after those first 2 episodes, I might try and get some guests on. I already have people who are interested in doing it because for the script of this first episode, I basically passed it around to almost a half dozen senior devs just to see like, hey, what do you think of this? Like, is this too much information? Is it not enough? Is this something that you would show to an intern? Is this what you would show to someone who's interested in getting to like learn what coding is and all that kind of stuff? And they said, yeah, like they suggested some changes, and yeah, so it is pretty curated by a decent group of people at this point. And I'm sure some of those people will probably end up showing up on it for conversations.
Cool. That's awesome.
Nice. So look forward to that. And is that going to go up just on the regular Game Fix feed for now?
Yeah, that's a good question. Probably for at least the first episode.
Mhm.
And if it gets enough reception after the first couple episodes, then I'll probably break it into its own thing. But we'll see.
Okay.
Cool.
And going from there, unless anyone has any objections, we'll head into the news.
Nope.
What's
No
the news of that,
objections
baby?
here.
All right. Well, this week we were hit just yesterday.
We were struck by.
Well, there were the politicians were among us, and AOC and is it Jagmeet?
Jugmeat.
Jugmeet.
Yeah.
Okay. That Jugmeet Singh had a pretty short notice Among Us stream where they ended up raising over $200,000 for charities for like food banks and stuff like that. Is
And
that
housing
correct?
and
Housing and-
for homeless folks.
Essentially, like the stuff I can't speak to Canadian politics, but basically all the stuff that is just deadlocked in Congress in the United
yes.
States that they
Yes.
can't seem to figure out how to provide basic support and services for the people of this country. I have tons of respect for AOC just saying, you know what, fuck it, let's raise some money for these people, because
Yeah.
her direct action did more yesterday for people struggling in the pandemic right now than
yeah.
what Congress has been able to do in the past 5 months.
Yeah.
So
Basically,
yeah. I think it's a really powerful show of how ineffective our politicians are and how broken our system is, and how someone who has a platform and uses it intelligently can make a real difference. So I definitely applaud it.
Yeah. Yeah, I found it interesting just how impromptu it was. Like it was basically Jugmeet like reaching out and being like, "Hey, I might stream some Among Us. AOC, would you be interested?" And then she was like, "Sure, why not?" And then the next day they did it.
Yeah,
I wonder if it was actually that impromptu.
yeah.
Like, you know,
It was listening to how Victoria Tran was telling about it.
I mean, she might not have been privy.
Yeah,
but,
it's hard to know for sure. I think if
like it could, like, you know, who was coming in, but I feel like between the two of them, like between Jagmeet and AOC, that might have been like a cute little like, oh hey, let's stream a thing.
it's hard to know for how long it
Yeah.
was. Now I'll say the first stream that she did with Ilhan, that was fairly impromptu, to the point that like there were people like running parts to Ilhan's campaign headquarters so that she could play like a half hour before the stream. So I think to a degree they have been impromptu, and I would guess that I don't think this was like they've been planning this for a month. I think it's
No.
more like probably they talked about it before Jugmeet tweeted at her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. No idea. But like pretty impossible to say from the outside, but either way it was
Yeah.
in the end it was a really cool event. And
Yeah.
I ended up watching it after some of the questionable people had already kind of left the thing, which I don't even know if we have to really talk about, but they should vet those. They should probably vet those better.
I think I think
But I also don't think that was any fault of either AOC or Jugmeet. Like, I really doubt they were the ones who gathered the streamers.
so. I think that the fact of the matter is that they're entering a space, and they have a responsibility to vet the people they're streaming with, whether they gather them or not. I mean, I wouldn't let Biden off the hook if like one of his staffers chose George Bush to speak at a campaign event or something. Like, I think that like it's, at the end of the day, it really is an event that AOC and Jugmeet were kind of marketing and stuff. So I think it is kind of on them to make sure that the people they're streaming with are good people. But at the same time, I think it speaks more to how dynamic and challenging Twitch is as a space to operate in as a person who is as a politician, because it's hard to do that. I certainly don't think I'm certainly not saying like, fuck them, I can't believe they streamed with this person, idiots. It's more like, I hope that that learning comes out of it, and that the vetting process is a little more robust next time around. But I also think there's an argument to be made for like popular people in the space exist. So if you want to reach those people's audiences, Like part of the problem with somebody like XQC is he has a lot of people that in his audience that are like, politics is stupid. I'm not going to invest in this. I mean, someone made an argument to me yesterday that it's a positive thing that he's not invested in politics, which is like, you should be invested in your local politics. That's like really core important part of being a functioning member of society and having a functioning society. So if AOC can convince some of his audience to get involved politically, that's not a bad thing. It's just an interesting challenge, I think, for them to overcome if they continue to do these kinds of events.
I do agree, but I also can see a case for what that person is saying, purely in the sense if you think of it as entertainment for children. Like in essence, that's what that guy is. So it's like, I wouldn't want the Teletubbies saying, you know,
no, this is like I don't want anyone to talk about politics because I personally am not invested in. I mean, XQC's whole thing is that like he's not willing to personally invest in politics and learn. So that's why he's apolitical.
That's different.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying every stream has to get into local political issues. I certainly don't all the time when I stream stuff. It's he's saying personally he doesn't like vote, he doesn't participate in the political system because he's not willing to invest the time to understand it.
Well, F that then. That's dumb.
As an adult, which I think is fucking pathetic.
That's irresponsible in that case.
So I think it's funny that he then went on a stream with two of the most like engaging politicians, and dynamic politicians in North American politics.
Yeah, to take a step back for those who might not know who Jagmeet Singh is, because like I imagine his name has not come up for a lot of people before. Like I think we've actually talked about him on our podcast before.
Yeah, totally.
Because he's a Canadian MP, a member of Parliament, and he's also the leader of the New Democratic Party, who is, in terms of our mainstream political parties, is the most left. Like we have like 4 or 5, depending how you define it, mainstream political parties, and NDP is consistently the one most left. They're the most progressive, I guess. Stands for New Democrat Party. So for him and AOC to work together makes sense.
Yeah,
because their views align on a lot of things, even cross borders. Because believe it or not, Canadian politics do get affected by American politics. So I know it's surprising, but yeah. So it was really cool to see them working together and kind of crossing that divide in a kind of friendly space.
Yes. And I really don't want to seem overly negative. I think that there's a responsibility as people who are invested in the space to be critical of it, because I do think that they need to get better, but I also don't think it was like a failure or like the stream was a failure or anything. I think it's streaming with a questionable person to raise $200,000 to help people is a net positive in the end. So
yeah, and by the time I started watching, which was probably like the last 2.5 hours or something, that streamer was no longer even there. So like I don't know how long they were there. I don't know if they were there for 20 minutes and then just left or whatever, but like the crew they had was great. I was watching it largely from the Innersloss Dev Twitch channel, because like I've seen AOC stream, I've seen the rest of those people are streamers, like Alana Pierce was there. I've seen her stream before, but I had never seen the dev perspective, and like Victoria Tran was the one running it, and they ended up having some other devs show up, and as well as modding the chat and stuff. So, and it was a smaller stream. It was like usually hanging around 120 people versus like the 50,000 people on some of the other streams.
AFC stream.
Yeah, exactly. So like you could actually have conversations and like actually have conversations with the devs, which was kind of cool, and seeing how excited they were about the whole event. So
yeah,
that was cool.
And I don't know how much, I think part of the reason that I also kind of grit my teeth a little bit is I don't know how much this kind of stuff happens in Canadian politics, but you know, there's every possibility that I don't think that her opponent will be smart enough to do this. But as this becomes more mainstream and if there are more politicians streaming, it's very easy for, in American politics, someone to go from, AOC streamed with, because apparently Corpse Husband does this too, Corpse Husband and XQC, and here's what their friend PewDiePie does, and then there's a political ad tying AOC to, you know, people in Africa being tricked into holding anti-Semitic signs. You know, it's like
6 degrees of separation kind of stuff. Yeah.
Obviously, I'm not saying that I think she's okay with that kind of behavior. and I don't necessarily even know. I don't know those two other dudes. Maybe they only do it because there's a lot of money in it. I don't know, but it's very easy to draw those conclusions for people who are uninformed. It's an easy target politically. So I think people, by and large, should just be careful with vetting when they do these streams.
Yeah, I think that's probably literally the only critique I would have.
Yes, totally. Yes,
I would leverage against this. And also, a fun thing that happened near the end is that AOC said that if they raised over $200,000 for this charity, that she would talk to Bernie and see if he would be up for joining one of these streams.
Really funny.
And they did raise over 200,000. So it would be great to see Bernie on one of these. It'd just be so weird.
Well, and it's such an important platform for engagement. I mean, it's streaming a game is as important now as like throwing out the first pitch at a baseball game or whatever, and you actually have an opportunity to talk to people while you do it. So
it's two-way communication in a lot of cases.
He already has the Twitch channel.
Yes, you're right.
I don't know if it would be possible to explain to Bernie how to play Among Us, but they could play Jackbox. I'm sure that
oh my god,
that would work. They could play like you don't know Jack. They could play like the quiz games and stuff.
I was gonna say, what about the rap battle one with Bernie? What would he come up with in that?
I don't know how good he is at writing stuff on his phone, but that would be amazing.
You can do it on a computer.
Yeah,
it's true. It's true.
Well,
do you think Bernie Sanders uses home row, or is he like a
hunt and peck? He uses a typewriter and then he hands that to an assistant. I bet, and then that assistant types it up.
I bet he has like very fast hunt and peck, like kind of touch typey kind of like. I bet he knows his way around a keyboard, but also doesn't use home row.
All right.
He can type. I imagine he's a smart man who has been involved in.
That's the thing. He's written a lot of very long legislative documents. So
yeah. And according to AOC, he also loves the internet. So
that's concerning. I don't want to think about Bernie Sanders on the internet.
On the chans.
Like,
what's Bernie Sanders
on Paul?
Oh God, what's Bernie Sanders' favorite subreddit?
Oh, it's the Donald.
Oh God.
No, his favorite subreddit is probably a cheese related one,
or animals being cute, or the best, or whatever.
The best. He
just lurks. Am I the asshole?
The best. The best clip of Bernie Sanders ever is him talking about his favorite cheeses. That is.
I'll have to look that up later.
I'll find it for you.
Thank you.
Next,
we'll put it in the show notes.
Next up on our list of news, a new game was announced. Surprise, new games. They still exist. The World Ends With You, a sequel? A new one?
it looks like it's ripping off Persona. Like it seems like this game that came out of nowhere.
Don't do this, Alex.
I can't believe people were having that take.
Some people have never seen a video game before, and they sprung out of the womb, and the only video game they've seen is Persona 5.
Yeah. When did the first one? It was a DS game, right?
Yes.
And I think it came out when I was like graduating high school. So there's only 2007, 2008-ish.
Yes, there's only one, and it is the DS one. They have ported it and like done director's cuts version of it or whatever, but there is only one. Well, okay, there's two The World Ends With You games. One, The World Ends With You. Two, Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance.
I was about to say.
Which actually has ramifications for The World Ends With You in it.
That's interesting.
Like, in a lot of
weird because it takes place in a dream, and does that mean all of The World Ends With You takes place in like a dream?
Does it?
And didn't it take some mechanics from Chain of Memories, if I remember right?
Not
Is
really.
Is it a card battler?
It's not a card. So the thing about The World Ends With You that's tough, and this is why none of the ports of it capture what made the original so good, is in the original on DS, you were playing two games simultaneously on the different screens.
Right.
So on the top screen, you were playing a like not rhythm, but like it was like you had to hit the face buttons to do attacks with a person on the top screen, and then on the bottom screen you had to tap on enemies and draw symbols and stuff to fight on the bottom screen. So it was extremely unique because you're literally playing two different games at once with your two different hands. It was really cool. And no port of it has been able to recreate that, because there's just not, because of, I don't know how the Switch one works. It would be possible that they could split it into two sections, and maybe they'd do it there, but
there's no microphone on the Switch, is there?
I don't know. There's also no stylus that comes with the Switch, so you kind of needed the stylus for it to work correctly on DS.
Because
you
in
need to
DS
precisely
you
tap things.
Yeah, precisely tap and also scream at it.
Yeah, I think there was audio stuff too that would control things. So, yeah.
But no, that game ported was really cool. So it's kind of awesome to see it back. And it's called Neo. Neo: The World Ends With You, I think.
I guess, yeah. Neo: The World Ends With You.
I just worry that it's going to lose some of what made it cool, by not having
the Kingdom Hearts stuff.
By not having that two screen dynamic. I mean, that's why the ports have not been as widely talked about, I think.
Then you're porting a game and like removing stuff. If you're building a game with that in mind, then
exactly.
you can do like a new thing.
Right,
if it's from the ground up,
yeah. But if it's just a Persona style JRPG, I mean, what? Sure.
Yeah, it's possible it'll be that, but it's also possible it'll be something super creative. So,
and I hope it is. Yeah,
I'd love to see. Yeah.
Yes. I think the art in that game is fucking rad. So even if
the style,
yes, and the music is really cool and stuff. So it's interesting because there's not a ton of games outside of the Shin Megami Tensei oeuvre that are like Japanese urban fantasy, and
Yakuza Like a Dragon.
The World Ends With You.
What was the name?
Is that in a big way?
Akiba's Trip.
Caligula Effect. That was kind of similar, but it wasn't very good. But yeah, no. But for reals, that whole discourse around Persona fans was just the worst. They claimed ownership over Shibuya, basically. They're like, this is in Shibuya.
Well,
this is
yeah, it's tough. I don't know. When you have
no game ever used Shibuya before Persona 5.
Of course not.
When you have media that is like that like pulls, I think the thing about a lot of that is there's a lot of Persona 5 fans who aren't even necessarily big fans of like video games as a whole.
Yeah,
they're just really big fans of that specific game. You get this like weird effect where it's people kind of talking about a whole medium they don't fully understand. It's like how like I know a lot of my friends who were in art school would groan when people would talk about how like beautiful the Mona Lisa is, when it's like important painting, you don't really know anything about art.
Sure.
And so I think it can be frustrating from that angle.
Yeah, or independent filmmakers who all their friends say Fight Club is the best movie of all time forever.
Totally. Same kind of thing.
Yeah, like, yes, it's a good movie, and at the time it was a good movie, but there's a lot more movies. Persona 5, it's a good game. I don't like it very much, but it's a good game. But there's a lot more stuff that you can like.
I also
other
think
stuff.
Persona games in general, and 5 maybe more than even other ones, is the kind of game that you have to approach. Like, when Allison says, "I love Persona 5," I feel like I'm kind of like, yeah, okay, cool. I mean, you understand that you're approaching it with a critical eye and understand that there are issues with that game, and so.
Totally.
In the same way that like I'm very excited about Cyberpunk, there's been a lot of transphobic advertising for that game. Like, I'm not going to go in and be like, I love this thing, and that also means, if I say I love this thing, that I'm also not saying I love any transphobic shit in it. Yeah. But with Persona fans, sometimes Persona 5 fans in particular, sometimes it's like, I don't know if you're understanding that this thing is not holistically good. And that can make the conversation difficult from the jump. Like that lack of being able to be critical of the thing in any way that happens sometimes with these kinds of fandoms.
Yeah, critical objectivity is a valuable thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to move us on to the next story, which is speaking of Cyberpunk. Oh, wait. No, not.
Speaking of Cyberpunk, that could have fit for either of these stories.
Square Enix says people can work from home starting December 1st, which is Tuesday, basically permanently, which is surprising for a Japanese company, especially one like Square, which has been notoriously like weird about like their like security, I guess, InfoSec stuff.
Yeah, totally.
But hey, if people can stay home, like, you know, work from home if they want, that's good, especially because right now in Japan things are getting worse with the COVID. Worse, things are worse than they have been at any point previous, much like everywhere else.
Well, mostly like in the United States.
I mean, but you know, things are obviously much worse in the U.S., but you know, the same kind of pattern where things are currently.
I mean, we knew this was going to happen, right?
There's a second wave. We knew that was coming.
Yeah.
But
second wave, isn't this like the third wave or something? I don't know. It's
depends where you are.
The first wave never ended in the United States.
Exactly. But I think
it's about to be real bad in 2 weeks, everybody.
Yeah. Oh, in the States, absolutely. But I think it's a positive move. I think the Square Enix thing is a positive move. Yes. And hopefully it sets a precedent for a lot of other, not just game studios, just companies, just workplaces.
I think remote working is a net positive thing, period. Like, because there's a lot of reasons why. I will say I saw a really interesting take on this, and it wasn't even necessarily a negative one at the concept, but Anton Hand, developer of Hot Dogs, Horseshoes, and Hand Grenades, was talking about how what this is going to do in the United States is if Activision can hire someone to do QA from their home in Ohio and pay them Ohio rates, then the job market in the Bay Area, where all of these people have concentrated, is going to basically evaporate. Because if they can pay the market rates for lower income areas or areas where cost of living is much lower, and they don't have to pay San Francisco salaries, there's no reason for them to continue to pay people in San Francisco to do the job, because living in San Francisco doesn't inherently make you better at the job than someone who lives in Ohio.
People are already running into that. Like Facebook is like saying, okay, if you want, you can work from home permanently. And people are like, we're getting out of the Bay Area then, and then Facebook is also saying, well, we're also cutting your salary to match that cost of living.
And I would maybe kind of make a tiny adjustment to your statement there, Pat. You're right that being in San Francisco doesn't mean you're the best at it, but it does tend to attract people in that field there more than other places, much like, you know, in the 70s, 60s, 70s, Nashville attracted lots of musicians because that's where the scene was. And Silicon Valley is still huge for developers, so the standard of developers there tends to be higher. But if we can remove that barrier and we can just make it a global thing, or at least, you know, like a countrywide thing, depending on the business itself, how they want to do it, but whatever
reasons.
Like suddenly the person who lives in the middle of Arkansas, who's been programming their entire life but doesn't have the ability to move to San Francisco, maybe they actually get an opportunity to work with, you know, their dream group of people.
I think part of it too is the concern that there are a lot of well, not a lot of, but there's a lot of people who have moved through a handful of like game design degree programs that are not necessarily, you're going to get a much better education if you go to UCLA for like computer science than you're going to get doing Full Sail online. Not even necessarily community college, but I mean, yes to that too, but Full Sail online game dev program. And I think part of the concern, to your point, is it has nothing to do with people. It all has to do with people's opportunity. It doesn't have to do with their intelligence. But someone who does live in rural Arkansas may have gone through something like a Full Sail program, and then currently is working at as a manager in retail or an office job for like a local thing, or, you know, in city government or something.
Because there's no opportunities.
Right. And now they can get a game design job, but did that education that I'm not making the argument because I'm not that familiar with their programs, but I have heard people say those programs are basically predatory because they don't actually teach you usable skills.
Depends on the program, but yeah.
Yeah, but is that person going to be able to work at the same level as someone who did have the opportunity to go to a place like UCLA and get a computer science degree? And how will that affect workflow and stuff? And the problem being that, will Activision give a shit anyway, because they can pay that person nothing compared to what they pay people who have that more prestigious education.
But by the way, this is
interesting.
This is extremely relevant. If you're interested in these kinds of thoughts and how to get started, listen to the first episode of Coding Fix, where we talk about various ways to break into industries that you might be interested in.
So I think it'll be I think Anton's point, and really my point too, is less to make a value judgment about how this is going to affect the industry, and more that it's worth paying attention to if you're interested in how the industry works, because it's going to be a big shakeup, I think, over time.
So Andre, do you think this means that Square Enix, like, I think they're based out of Tokyo, right? They have to be.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Like, does that mean that someone from Hokkaido could now apply and work at Square Enix without ever having to leave, like, Sapporo? Or like, would they?
I mean, like, that
I'm just curious because, like, I don't really know the work dynamic, like the workplace dynamic in Japan. Like, if that's something that seems.
I mean, I work in a school.
Of course.
I wish I could telecommute, man. If I could do like Zoom classes with my kids, it'd be a fucking nightmare. But it'd be like, just for like, doing however many, like 700 elementary school kids, it's like a week or whatever is already rough. But I guess I could cut down my class sizes. I don't, whatever, it doesn't matter. Teaching language over Zoom doesn't seem like a good time. It seems like it would be able to open up things, because it's not super difficult to get from like Sapporo to Tokyo or whatever. You do need to, but there might be issues with like internet in more rural areas.
Sure.
And so, like, that's going to limit things. But I think the government in Japan is taking steps to like make homework more feasible, telecommuting, because like at the start of Japan is a very paper-based society. It's like, and they have like official seals called honko, which are like stamps. You don't sign things, you use your stamp.
Yep.
And so when the pandemic started and people were locked down, like working from home, they would still have to go into the office 3 days a week or something to get things stamped and to print things out, because that's how things have always been done. And now that is starting to get phased out, because like we need to stop this. This is not making any sense for where we are, and
for
like
2020.
if we want to be being competitive in the world and stuff like that. We want to keep that as part of our culture, but like in business we need to eliminate it.
Sure.
So like stuff like, the removal of stuff like that, I don't know how like prevalent that stuff is in game dev. But keeping like, there are steps being taken to make remote work more feasible. And so the government also wants to get people out of the cities into more rural areas, and like, to get people to spread out. So I think like those things combined, maybe someone in Hokkaido or, in like Fukushima could get a job with Square Enix and telecommute, and, maybe once a month or whenever they have to, ride the bullet train and go into Tokyo for something. But for the most part, they can just do their thing at home. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a cool prospect.
I know for my purposes, I would fucking love to have the ability to like live with like family for 3 months out of the year and go back and forth a little bit.
Yeah.
And that would be.
And then you're keeping an apartment in Tokyo that you're not living in for 3 months.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's more complicated than just saying that, but I think it would be cool to be able to be less tied to a specific spot for working.
Yeah.
You can be what do they call that? A digital nomad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. My God. So yeah, that's Square Enix. We'll see how that impacts, if that does anything to impact like games like Final Fantasy 16.
I think that'll be the game that really we see the effects of this stuff.
Most
Creative
likely.
Business
directly.
Unit 2 or whatever.
69.
And you know what's going to end up happening is, you know, post COVID, I think there's going to be a lot of people who say, no, I want to go work in an office because that just works better for me.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, there are people who that works better. There are people who telework works better. So
Yeah.
you know, the option is is good.
Yes, it's good. It's definitely good. But I think there's probably people who are going to prefer the traditional setup too. So
yeah. Speaking of traditional setups, Cyberpunk 2077 leaked with retail copies out in the wild, and folks are uploading like PS4 gameplay. I don't know if there's Xbox gameplay. I haven't seen any gameplay.
I haven't seen it either, but from what I've heard, it's rough, and they really did need that crunch time on that patch. I mean, not that I'm saying it's good that they crunched or whatever, but
yeah, if they needed they needed more time to like iron it out.
Yeah, that day one patch hopefully will fix a lot of problems that game has.
I saw that that stuff had leaked, and I immediately went on Twitter as like mute Cyberpunk.
Yeah, no, I've been avoiding it too, but I have heard it implied that it both looks bad and runs bad on PS4, which is not a good combination.
Well, given how rough Black Ops Cold War ran for me, that's not surprising, actually.
Yeah. I think the thing about this that would be, I mean, and maybe the day one patch will make it much more playable on PS4. The frustrating thing to me is if you made a PS5 game, you know, it's good to have the PS4 option, but it's like not all the way to being a PS5 game either. That stuff is coming later, the full patches for that. And yet the PC version sounds like it's basically next gen. So it's like, it's frustrating to hear that. It just shows that game has been so mismanaged, because it seems like with all of this, with like, what are we at, like 12 weeks of crunch time for the devs, and not just crunch like
that we know of.
Well, we know. Yes, I'm saying in this push that they talked about, that they admitted to. From what I have heard,
I think we're on like year 2
for years. But I mean, like, all this time was spent to get it to a state where it runs okay on PS4, and there still isn't all the PS5 enhancements in. Like, nothing. I'm not faulting the people actually working on it, but I am faulting the people running the project.
Well,
There's a fucking schedule.
This game was supposed to come out in May. Yeah. Right. So like, you know, it's probably for the best that they were just like, we'll get to the next gen stuff after we get like the current gen stuff working, or, you know, or they say, well, we're canceling the current, you know, we're canceling the PS4 and Xbox One version. It's only the, you know, the PS5,
which they can't do because of the install bases on those platforms.
Exactly.
And they shouldn't do, frankly, because it's hard to get those, and there's people who've been waiting a long time for this game. So I think it's good that they're still putting them out. I think you should always have the option. I think if the game runs like shit, it runs like shit. But I also come at it from a PC perspective, where no one's going to tell you can't try to play this game on a 760 or whatever. You're just not going to have a good time. So I don't know. I think it's good that they're doing it, but it seems like that studio needs to get the fuck over their whole Metacritic thing and just do things in early access. They even have a platform where they could say, like, look, we're putting it out in GOG early access or whatever. Because it seems like if they had done that, it could have led to like people being less angry about not being able to play it. And then also they could maybe stretch the development of it out while they're making money from it a little bit more, and say, you know, like, hey, we released it in May and now we're doing a year of early access on it or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What's the largest company to do an early access game? Is it Larian with Baldur's Gate 3?
Microsoft. I mean, Obsidian.
I guess, they do their game. Yeah, their game preview
and
program.
Sea of Thieves, I think, came out in game preview initially, but maybe
I think it did.
Yeah. You could totally buy like a Founders early edition of Sea of Thieves that was like when it was still technically in beta.
Okay.
And I mean, we say big, like the studio that makes Ark Survival Evolved makes a fuckload of money.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
game is
Or, like,
enormously popular.
Look at Minecraft.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that
Like
I
that's
mean,
that's
that
obviously
was,
different. That's
Yeah.
different.
But like the studio that makes Ark put out Atlas in early access, and it's still in early access.
which is terrible. But
Yeah,
that's a
it's
whole separate thing.
Yeah, it's a deep conversation.
Wasn't one of the Mountain Blade games early access?
Mountain Blade 2 is in early access.
Yeah, that's a pretty big company, relatively
yeah.
speaking.
Yep. So I mean, certainly large companies, and there's some of the stuff that comes out on Epic in like early access is from fairly large companies too, I want to say. So I mean,
what was that one
Hades?
you talked about?
fuck, EA put Plants vs Zombies, Last Plants vs Zombies
Oh,
game out
yeah,
in early access,
right.
and it's a good game. It's not
like
amazing, but it's good.
But I wouldn't consider like Supergiant makes like, you know, their name is Supergiant, but they are not like a
still an
massive
indie
studio.
studio.
They're small.
They're
Yeah,
they're a
they're small
small
teams.
13
studio.
people there.
They punch above their weight constantly,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
it's fantastic.
But I mean, Plants vs Zombies is an enormous
that's-
name.
yeah, you're
and
right.
that was an early access game. So
I'm reading apparently FIFA 21 is early access. So
what? No, fuck off.
fuck that.
that's what it says. I'm just reading. I'm reading
I
it.
believe you.
calling
that
them as
is
I
what
see
it
it.
says.
Get the fuck out.
I'm not shooting the messenger. I am.
We're done with this
I am
conversation.
shooting FIFA 21.
there is precedent for large studios to do it.
Yeah. I was just wondering,
And
like, what is the largest
I'll say
studio to do that?
I'll say FIFA
Or,
21.
like, the biggest game, like the most prestigious game, I guess. I don't even know, to do early access.
I believe that they say that FIFA 21 is early access somewhere. It's not currently on Steam listed as an early access game.
Right.
So some of that I think is like, sometimes I think there are studios, both large and small, that use the term early access to cover their asses for the
is
fact
that
that it's not been QA'd.
Do you just mean like, oh, if you have like EA, what is it, EA Play, you get like early access to FIFA 21 like a week early or something?
No
Is that
idea.
what you're thinking of?
It
No
could
idea.
be that that's what it's
That's
talking about. I don't
probably
know.
because that's one of the benefits you get with like the EA Origin Access Premier or whatever they call it now.
But like something like
Play
Grounded,
Plus or-
something like Grounded is in early. I mean, it's in game preview. It's in early
no,
access
you're
on
right.
Steam.
Totally.
So I think big studios have done it, and it just seems like that. It may not have solved anything, but it just seems like that is better for a studio like
for like
them.
loot. I saw someone talking like loot games, like Avengers could have very much benefited, like those types of games could very much benefit from like an early access thing, so people can figure out what works about this game and the loop and what doesn't. And you know, you can say, hey, we're gonna wipe all this before like, you know, 1.0 or whatever, but like we're gonna figure this out together. We're gonna find a good loop and make it work, because that's basically the problem with a lot of these games is like the loop isn't great, and you have like a content dearth problem too, where they're just, you know, people burn through what there is so fast. But and early access won't solve that, but it could solve a lot of the like early growing pains of these games.
Did you talk about that one news story that we have on our list about Avengers? Because it
Not
could
yet. I mean,
help to
because
solve that very problem. I mean, we can just briefly say like
they have not recouped development costs of the Avengers game.
Yeah. And if you have a game, if that game had come out in early access, then it would have created a bunch of people that bought it who are early adopters and who really want to play it. And then when it hit 1.0, then it could have been a better game and ushered in a big new wave of players. So
And that would
I
have
think
massively helped the word of mouth. I
totally,
think.
yes.
Because like
Because it
the first time people played that game, they were like, "This is okay, but it's kind of broken. And it's kind of shitty, but parts of it are cool. But maybe if they fixed it, it would be okay." But so that like turns so many people off. They're like, "I'm not gonna buy that."
Yeah.
And I mean, the problems with that game are in its end game. If like upon finishing the campaign, I was like, yeah, this is going to sneak in at like 8 or 9 on my game of the year list. This is pretty good. And then I started playing more of the service game stuff. And now it probably would be listed as my most disappointed game, the game I'm most disappointed about this year, because the end game is so bad.
Which is funny because it's my like, oh, I was pleasantly surprised by this, even though like I also think it's bad, but it's much better than I thought it would be.
Yeah, I mean the campaign and stuff for sure.
Well, it is simultaneously exactly what I thought it would be and better than I thought it would be.
Yeah, like the campaign for sure for me, and then I got to the service game part, and it's like the choices that they made, not just like it has technical problems. The decisions, the design decisions that were made in how to keep you playing and on a treadmill are so terrible. It actually took away from my feelings about the game as a whole, and I can't like celebrate the campaign anymore because I know how bad the stuff bolted onto the end of it is.
They should have just made a Miss Marvel game.
I think they should have and could have done a lot of things.
Yes. Speaking of things you could have done, you could have bought an Xbox Series S and used it to emulate like a PS2 or something. I don't know.
A lot of stuff.
That was like a Virtual Boy.
Don't know about Virtual Boy. Maybe.
You need an Oculus Quest 2 for that.
Vectrex.
Oh man, yeah, Touchmaster.
It's a Jaguar, the Sega Master System.
Yeah, you can actually do Sega Master System. So there's a channel we've talked about their channel before.
Wonder Swan.
I wonder if you could, but Modern Vintage Gamer. We've talked about their channel before a variety of times, and they put out a really nice kind of 15-minute video talking about how people are using the Xbox Series S, the smaller one, the one that looks like a boombox, as just an amazing emulation tool. Like the emulation scene has been strong for a long time, and like you can use Raspberry Pis and Arduinos and stuff even to an extent to do emulation, but it's not great. Like once you get to the 3D rendered stuff, like you get to PS1 stuff, PS2 stuff, N64 stuff, that ain't gonna work. But the Series S costs about as much as like an NVIDIA Shield, which was like the previous standard setter, like a little bit more, $50 more, I guess. And it can emulate pretty much anything with really strong fidelity. And it's pretty crazy actually. So the emulation scene is basically falling in love with it. And that's because it's really easy to get the emulation to work. You don't need to jailbreak your system. You don't need to do any mods to it. Basically all you need to do is sign up. Like, you know how back in the Xbox One days, they were touting like, oh, every Xbox One can be used as a developer kit.
Yes.
They're just leveraging that. You sign up, like you turn the box into developer mode. You download this app, which is like developer access or something. I forget what it's called. And you pay Microsoft $20 one-time fee, which is like their license for being able to be a developer on that machine. And you can run RetroArch on it. And that gets you access to like all of the emulators, PSP emulators and PlayStation 2 and Dreamcast and Saturn and Master System.
Finally, I can play Dragon Ball Z Tenkaichi 2.
Exactly. Finally. This is the only way you could have done so.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's really cool.
Can you emulate a PS3 on this thing?
Not yet.
Can you play Bloodborne? Or not Bloodborne. Can you play Demon Souls on an Xbox Series S?
No, but you can play Dolphin. So you can play Super Mario Galaxy.
Or like, you can play Super Mario Sunshine.
If you really wanted, yeah. But it's cool. Like Microsoft has been so much more friendly towards these scenes. Like Microsoft isn't shutting this stuff down either. Like they're like, yeah, this is something you want to do with it. Okay. Like Microsoft has just been so much more open about this stuff. And I think that's cool.
Yeah, that's neat. I'm surprised because there have been like all sorts of like emulation stuff that's kind of popped up on there before, or like interesting like apps, and they're like, nope, we're gonna shut this down. Like I think Rainway or something. Is that like a streaming thing?
Yeah, I'm not super familiar with it, but I remember hearing it. Yeah,
like that was like on, and then it was taken off, and stuff like that. Who knows what was up with that, but it's interesting.
It's cool. I'll make sure to link to that video in the description. or in the show
sure.
notes.
Next up, we're going from the Series S, the Xbox Series S, to the PlayStation 5, and it's a cooling situation.
Yeah. Did you watch that video?
I did not. But I saw some stuff about maybe the cooling ain't great in some news stories, but I didn't have time to dig into it. But they use liquid metal in the big fan. How could there be a problem?
So the thing is, with a lot of the reporting on it, on the PS5's heat, you would see a lot of reports of journalists or tech journalists or whatever taking a thermal camera and pointing it at the PS4, pointing it at the vents, etc. Like, and they were showing those images and those temperatures that were coming out of it. But that's absolutely useless because the vent is where hot air is supposed to come out of. Like,
yes,
that's the way it works. So of course that's going to be hot. Like,
yes.
So what they're showing is nothing of use. So what Gamers Nexus did, and I will again link to this video in the show notes, they actually pulled the PS5 completely apart, threw in some thermal monitors across multiple components, and then ran it through a series of stress tests, like going into Astro's Playroom and going to some spots that had like lots of effects going on, like the part that has like a bunch of like particle effects and cloud effects and like a bunch of NPCs on screen, just to get everything kicked up into overdrive and like trying to get everything working as hard as it could. And that's where they were taking their readings. And they were able to see that, like, yeah, the CPU cooler with the liquid metal, pretty good. That stuff is going all right. And like ventilation, good. But the thing they found is that the memory in specific was doing a really, 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 really bad job at cooling. And in fact, they were worried that it was actually going to start like melting parts of the case. And like, it seems like it could be an issue, especially because there's no thermal pads on it. There's nothing to really provide cooling for it unless you take the wings off. They said if they left the wings of the PS5 off, it was a little better, like marginally better, but they were actually doing more harm specifically for the memory than anything else. So they're worried that like the memory might end up being a failure point in the next few years.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a good watch. It's a pretty technical watch. Like, they get deep into the actual, like, much like Gamers Nexus does, they get deep into graphs and like data and all that kind of stuff, which if you're interested in it, it is cool. You can just skip kind of to the conclusion if you want, but yeah, it makes you think. I wonder if we're going to run into a red ring situation with the PS5 in like a year or two.
Yeah, that's these consoles have not been without their problems. The PS4, the PS3 also had issues. You know, the Xbox 360 famously.
Did the Xbox One have any issues? I don't even remember, honestly.
It was just kind of a piece of junk.
Well, at launch, yeah, but like, did it ever have like hardware issues?
Not that I know of.
Yeah, because like you had like the yellow light.
Nobody owned them, so like, you know, nobody knows.
Yeah, they're just a myth. Yeah, like, yeah, you did have like the yellow light of death and stuff for PlayStation, but I don't really remember anything terrible about the Xbox One. If you, listener, send a message to us at Fix Podcasts on Twitter, because I can't remember.
Or gaming at fix.space.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun.
Also, by the way, we've lost Pat. We don't know where he went.
Yeah, he's gone. Probably with the dog.
Probably.
But that's okay. You know what? I missed a good segue. What we should have talked about. Let's take back that whole conversation.
Let's roll it back.
Yep.
So what was wrong? Was anything wrong with the Xbox One? I don't even remember.
No, not that. No, I mean,
so
this
leave
whole
leave the wings off.
Yeah. No, we gotta go all the way back to emulation.
So RetroArch.
What if you could put RetroArch on a handheld device that only played Super Mario Brothers? But it was like a Game and Watch. But then instead of if you could put like another game on like any sort of like weird like little tech thing, what game would you put on there?
Ridge Racer.
The giant enemy crab.
Ridge Racer.
Pat has returned.
No,
You,
that's-
Pat, you missed all the technical talk. It was fun.
Yeah,
He heard
it
it.
was good timing.
I'm
Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
we
I had
got
some dog duty and some dog duty.
Gross.
great. Censor that.
She refused
I'll
to take a dump
amplify
in the
it.
dark last night. So
So did she then take a dump in the
a
light on
dump
your
by
floor?
daylight. No, outside, thankfully,
Okay.
but it was enormous.
Dump by daylight. So Andre, what are you getting at?
Remember how Nintendo put out that Game and Mario thing or whatever, the Mario
Yeah.
Game and Watch?
Game and Watch.
Allison bought one.
Yep,
Somebody put Doom on it.
of course they did.
Nice, sick. Yes. Damn. Now I can't get one either. Damn.
Yeah.
I could've bought one
Apparently,
today, but I don't need this in my life.
apparently the frame rate is really bad, but it does work, and it's full
someone
color.
ran Doom on a pregnancy test.
I was gonna
like,
say, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but like it's like full color. It's like actual PC Doom, but
Yep.
it's the frame rate is like
well, hey,
how many
remember-
seconds per frames do you get?
I remember my first experience with getting things to run on things they aren't supposed to run on was getting Doom to play on the PlayStation Portable, and it was like, holy shit! And I was basically like, I bet I could play any game on the PlayStation Portable. It's like, I bet I could. I spent a long time trying to figure out how to get The Sims to run on PlayStation Portable.
That would have been
That was-
awesome.
That was a big one.
and then they just put out The Sims Herbs or whatever.
And then they just started making Sims games for consoles and handhelds.
Herbs.
All right.
Herbs,
Herb-
yeah, herbs. is a thing.
Herbs.
URBZ.
URBZ.
The
Oh.
Black Eyed Peas. The Black Eyed Peas were characters in that game. You could just like
Why?
hang out with them, with
That
Will.i.am
sucks.
and Fergie.
That's I can think of.
Only those two? Or
No,
like
they were Apple
D
App was in it, and yeah, they were all in
Taboo.
it. Yeah,
can
Taboo. Yeah,
think-
they were all. They were.
I
all
have
in
the
it.
same birthday as Taboo.
That's funny.
There's few experiences I want less than that.
Having the same birthday as one of the
Probably
Black
the
Eyed
Black Eyed
Peas.
No, I don't, the Black Eyed Peas are terrible.
Whatever. There's worse things out there.
There are much worse things. But,
Like
you know,
like
there-
when you said herbs, the first thing that came or herbs.
And
Sorry,
not
I was thinking
herbs.
herbs.
Herbs
And
is a
and
different
I,
Sims
I-
game.
I immediately thought of Herbie in The Sims.
Herbie fully loaded.
In The Sims,
No, they still don't have fucking cars in The Sims 4. So no.
you can't fuck cars in The Sims 4. No,
You also can't own them.
Lightning McQueen is a children's character. You do not fuck him.
no dragons, no fucking cars, not in.
Are there dragons in The Sims?
Probably.
I'm
woohoo
looking it up
dragon.
now.
Well, no.
It
I don't
always
think you
comes
can-
back to this,
I don't
doesn't
think
it?
you can. I don't think you can woohoo dragons.
Dragons are hatched from dragon eggs. They can be
Okay.
purchased from
Yeah,
Vicky
it's just gonna
Vampirus.
say, I thought that they existed. I don't think you can woohoo them.
I'm sure
Dragons
some
also-
enterprising player.
Yeah,
Oh, God,
dragons
motto.
appear in The Sims 4 Realm of Magic and The Sims
Yeah.
Free Play.
Someone should make a Elder Scrolls Sims game. That's what
That's what I
Bethesda
want.
should do now.
That's what I want. I
Can
want them
you
to put the
fuck
Sims to map the
dragons?
Sims to cool different experiences. I want a Star Trek Sims game. I don't want like
Oh no.
I don't care about like flying the ships around. I want to manage the lives of the crew while they're on a Star Trek vessel.
I have made
right.
a bad search.
Yeah, I heard you say that, and I kind of kept talking over it because I didn't want. You're you have to just burn that computer now. You can't, and your Google account. You have to.
The FBI is
you have
going to
get
be
rid
after
of-
this computer.
Yeah, you're not even in the United States, but the FBI is coming for you.
Well, it's
Yeah.
international, so it's the CIA, and
Yeah, true. Yeah,
Our condolences to the Canadian government.
I do like this one though, just the title of I need DM advice from the D&D subreddit of their entire crew wants to fuck one dragon. Anyways,
like independently.
Red Dead Online is going to become a standalone product on December 1st for $5.
It's
well,
it's,
$5 to start.
Oh, yeah. Well,
free
yeah.
to start. Red Dead Online will be the definition of $5 to start or
Yeah.
blank to start. Because
No, I think they said they're going to raise the price to $20, 15 or $20 later. It's like the introductory
more
product.
sense.
Yeah.
Because I heard that it was going to cost $20, and then I was playing Call of Duty with friends last night, and one of them was like, "No, it's going to be $5."
It's going to be
And I didn't wanna
$5
get
for
into an
like
argument.
a
but
few months or something like
got
that.
it. Don't pay money Red Dead 2 is really cool, and if you're patient, it's a great game. I don't think it's worth paying money for Red Dead Online.
It
That
sounds like it's kind of bad.
It is bad. It is. It's not good.
Like
So,
it's just
like-
it's got not enough content, and the stuff they have put in has been like really weird and
And
kind
it
of
costs money.
exploitative. It sounds
You
like
have to pay so much money to keep playing it.
yeah.
Like, because you have to, in order to unlock like the interesting content that's there, you have to pay these gold bars, which cost money to get.
Mhm.
So it's like you have to pay like $15 to get like a 3-hour long story thing. It's
Yeah.
which it was just introduced as additional content for it, whatever. But it's scummy the way they.
It's kind of the
Do you-
only thing there is now.
Yeah.
Do you think they broke it out because it was just failing? And they just wanted to get something in front of people that they could actually like maybe be tempted by. It's like, oh, this is $5. Wow, why not?
I think, well, I don't know. Red Dead sold really well. I don't, obviously, it hasn't been out as long as GTA 5, but I imagine like GTA just holds like a much like higher like popularity. So if they can break out, like say, oh, it's, it's $5 or, it's cheap to start, they can start to pull more people towards that new thing. So they don't have to keep making it. I don't know.
The
I
thing
don't know,
about it
though.
is, I don't know. I know Red Dead 2 sold really well. I assume it made money, but also that game was in development for like 7 years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's possible that
But-
it was not as big of a financial success as Take-Two wanted, even given the success that it had.
Yeah.
2, they're not selling you the single player by itself. You can
No.
upgrade from this online version to get the single player. It seems like they should break the single player out because that's the good part of the game. But then on top of that, I feel like they are approaching this the wrong way. I think you're right, Alex, that they're just saying like, hey, just come play the online to try to build the player base. But they're trying to do that before they work on the game and get the content where it needs to be, which to me is backwards. So it seems like they should work with the player base that they have to make something. I mean, the Red Dead subreddit, again, I don't use Reddit a lot, but I have a friend who wishes Red Dead Online was better. They're not like delusional about thinking it's in a good place, but they've played a lot of it and they wish that it was better. And so they like talk about how that subreddit is basically like a parody of itself at this point because there's nothing to talk about because they never fucking add anything. And so the subreddit is just people like posting like, what do you think it's going to be this week? And it's always just devolves into memes and jokes because they never do it. They don't listen to the community at all. They put things, they'll put like an hour of content in every 3 months. So like,
and they'll also break the game and like make it so
Yes.
guns don't work or something at the same time.
like also it's really easy to exploit in that game. So you can just like ruin a whole lobby's time. And you can do that in GTA Online as well. But because GTA Online has engaging stuff to do,
Yeah.
it's worth putting up with. Which with Red Dead Online, it's like, what's the point? I remember I started playing Red Dead Online and I was like, this is cool. I made a character. This world is so enriching. Even if all I do is just go around and do bounties or whatever, that's fine with me because it's so engaging to explore this world and track people and kill them because it's got good stuff. But then I looked to buy a new gun. It was going to take me like 20 to 30 hours of grinding because of the costs of shit in that game. And to even become a bounty hunter, you have to pay $15 to unlock the job. So
like 15 real world dollars? Or
yes.
what the fuck?
Like real world dollars to unlock the profession.
That's so stupid. But
yes.
like the thing for me, just like I'm not going to play either of them, but just from the outside, isn't GTA Online basically Trackmania to an extent where it's just ridiculous and ludicrous and it's like you're making tracks where you're flying things and then going upside down on like these basically
That
Hot
is
Wheel
part
things.
of it. That
But,
is
like,
part of it.
It has
that's
a
like-
specific Trackmania mode, yeah.
Yeah, and like that's a huge appeal for a lot of people. How can you do that in Red Dead? You can't get a
Do it with
horse.
a horse or like a
You can't get a horse going that
Well,
fast.
I think
Horse
you
and
make a
carriage.
good point that I think that there's a lot more room to get in like just wild in GTA Online.
Right.
But
That's-
I would
yeah.
say that the stuff that really keeps people coming back to GTA Online is more the like you can own a casino, you can own you own like you buy like super yachts and then do all kinds of shit from them. You do the heists are a
Heists,
huge
yeah.
draw for people, which are not super goofy. The heists
Yeah,
are
those
like
they're curated.
pretty concentrated. You could do heists like that in Red Dead Online.
Yeah.
Like there's definitely stuff they could do and make it interesting. but they still haven't really committed to the idea of it being. Part of the problem with it is it's not Destiny, but in the Old West, which is I think what it kind of needed to be for it to work. Is it needed to be this like evolving narrative where you're constantly improving your character and new stuff is coming out, and instead it's like a free roam mode for Red Dead.
It's like the real Old West.
Yeah, which is kind of boring to play in perpetuity as a service game. The reason that the single player in Red Dead 2 is really good is because it's an incredibly engaging story from what I've played and have heard from friends who have finished it.
Yeah.
It's hard to get through because it's so long, but that it's really powerful when you actually play through it. But that's because of the narrative elements of it, not because it's like fun to do it's not fun to upgrade your Arthur. It's
man, imagine if you could strap rockets to the back of that horse and just fucking fly to the moon with it.
You strap that horse to a bridge and then you fly to the moon.
It's not
currently what's happening.
It's not the game that I want. What I want is they're actually not that far off from what I would want out of that game, but the fact that they also don't let you say, okay, I'm going to play and explore a breadth of content with just my friends. You can't do that either. There's no way to do, like, as far as I know, the last time I played, my friends and I could not just say, we're going to make new characters and treat this like a survival game where we play together in this world. It's like, it's more like, it's kind of like Fallout 76, where like you still have to load into a world with 12 other people if you're a group of 4, and almost odds are one of those people is going to be hacking and like basically standing on a mountain and lasering people across the map with an aimbot.
Cool.
And it sucks.
Yeah.
That's not fun to engage with on any level. And I say that, and the Fallout 76 comparison is only in the style of the lobbies. I don't think Fallout has the same problems anymore that it used to with that kind of stuff. So,
fair enough.
Yeah, I don't know. Don't buy Red Dead Online.
No, probably not.
It's probably for it to become fully free. It'll become fully free in a year, I bet.
And our last news story for this week, speaking of service games with great content, Hitman 3 has revealed its first new location. I do not know how to say this. It's in China.
Chongqing.
Yeah.
Chongqing. Okay. And I did not see. Is this like they showed like a little brief something at the reveal? I can't remember what it was.
There were shots from this, I think. In the reveal event, they showed like it wasn't.
I can't remember.
You couldn't tell that that's what it was, but there were like skyscrapers and stuff.
Yeah. It was just like here's like some like teasing, and then now what did they actually show in this like this reveal?
They showed a lot. It was like a blend. It was only like 2 or 3 minutes. It was pretty short, but it was a lot of the level itself with like in-game, like moving around and how it's going to look in game. But also they like broke it out to the engine level and like showed like, oh, look how many AIs we're running, and it's like showing
that's cool,
that kind of shit. And it's like
how many
now we're getting like 300 to 500 of these all working independently in a level, and it's like it was actually pretty crazy. And
how many triangles?
At least 2.
Damn.
Yeah, I know.
It's the power of the PS5.
It's fidelity, baby. But the in-game, like they did the thing you want from racing games, is they showed it raining, and they showed wet pavement, and they showed a wet Agent 47 head reflecting rain and all that kind of stuff. It actually looked fucking wonderful. It looked really, really, really good.
Was it running on PS? Like, was it a target for PS5? Do you know, or was that just like?
So.
Yeah,
I believe.
I wonder if you can transfer your. They should make it so you can transfer your saves from PC to PS5 because
I can't. I wonder what that VR mode is going to be.
Oh man,
yeah. I think I'm still going to play it on PC, but I don't want to buy it on Epic. But I also don't want to wait a year.
Is it?
So
wait, it's Epic exclusive?
It's an Epic thing.
What?
Yep.
What the fuck?
Yep.
Can I bring my Steam?
Yes, you can bring your Steam save over. You log into your account, your World of Assassination account, or whatever that already exists. I will say this isn't specific to the Chongqing thing, but IO with Hitman has, to me, I said, like, in one way, Assassin's Creed nails what I want from service games, but IO has done it in a way that actually is like also a live thing where it's so fucking cool that they just put out a new shell and then they back improve all the old content.
Oh yeah, totally.
But you can still focus on leveling up the missions from the first game in the Hitman. I assume in the Hitman 3 shell. You can do it in Hitman 2, and they seem to indicate that Hitman 3 is going to be the same thing.
Yeah,
they talked about that. Yeah,
they update all the
so
shit.
cool. That is like
awesome.
It's awesome. It's how these kinds of yearly games should work in my, or not yearly, obviously, but like these kinds of like iterative franchises should work to me, in my opinion.
Yeah, like my
so cool.
my only critique of Hitman 2 is that I kind of preferred the Hitman 1 style of like releasing a new level every month or two, because that felt more like you're coming back to it and getting more experiences. That's like you're spending more time focusing on an individual level because you know you're playing the content that's there, and I actually preferred that, but that's the content in Hitman 2 was still really strong. So
and you can kind of do it that way if you want. I know I spent like 6 hours on that first safe house level where I just tried to do every single objective there. And then eventually I broke down and just played the rest of the game through. But if you have the willpower, you can do it. But I see what you're saying. It does kind of force you into that.
Restrictions can be a good thing.
Speaking of IO, James Bond.
Oh yeah, we talked about that last week.
That was last week. What is time? I don't know. I wasn't here.
I mean, they remain the studio to do it, and I think what the new piece of conversation I heard around that was interesting was they talked about it a little bit on Waypoint, and I think Rob smartly pointed out that like IO is a perfect studio to sell to the James Bond people that they're making a really reverent, serious entry, and then also you can like throw your shoe. And they just don't show that in the trailers and stuff.
Who throws a shoe? Honestly,
like in Hitman, in the trailers, it's always played pretty straight and pretty like serious. But then when you actually play the game, you can kill every target with a soup can if you want to,
or spaghetti.
So,
what if instead, like they say, it's James Bond, but they actually just make an Austin Powers game?
Oh my god.
I think simultaneously, IO Interactive would be the studio I would want most to make both a James Bond and an Austin Powers game.
You know, I feel like Austin Powers would be an absolutely amazing DLC to the James Bond game.
Totally. You could totally, or just to Hitman.
or to Hitman, yeah.
You have to kill Austin Powers.
Lose a target Austin Powers.
But as someone who is, I shamefully will admit that I still laugh at Austin Powers pretty much anytime I see things from Austin Powers come up. And I was an enormous Austin Powers fan when I was a kid. I think it would be great if someone made a game, but they didn't do the like super cartoony style that is obvious, but instead did like Hitman style, like hyper realistic looking stuff, but with that character in the middle of it.
Or Mr. Bean.
I'm not with that as much. I know that I respect Alex Navarro's critical apparatus, but I just
not into the Mr. Bean.
But I don't like Mr. Bean. Period. Generally,
okay, that's fair.
Just not a Mr. Bean fan. I admit.
We're gonna lose like 10 of our listeners because of this. Thanks, Pat.
We're gonna lose Sam.
Sam doesn't listen.
That's true. We're gonna get a message in about 48 hours that's like, yes, I do.
Sam, if you hear this, scream into the void.
Yeah, and about Mr. Bean.
Yeah, about Mr. Bean.
God, now I'm thinking about elusive targets and stuff that would be fun.
Yeah.
Oh, there's so many.
I mean, we've had this discussion before, but are there any new elusive targets you'd like to see?
Well, if we're breaking beyond humans in the real world, then there's like a shit ton of anime characters that would be hilarious. Especially if they could kind of
Goku.
I think IO could make a really good The Boys game where you have to figure out how to kill the different superheroes.
They need to do like a comic convention. Or,
Yes.
Oh
Yes, they do.
man,
And make
Like,
have
that's
you
a
kill a
great
problematic comic
idea.
book creator
which
who's
one?
somehow tied into the global whatever.
Yeah, that's a very good idea. Comic
So,
convention.
The
God.
real thing I would say before we close out, I think this is our last story, is what I want to see from Hitman in the future. I think them adding like more layers of AI tech is cool, and that's awesome. But I would love to see those environments get even more like if there's a place with skyscrapers, it would be cool to go up into them. And,
I was gonna say Chongqing looks like it's actually pretty vertical, which is cool.
and it would be cool if you could like actually interact. Like if you have a sniper rifle in a skyscraper and you're 1,000 feet in the air, and you could actually take a shot at someone walking on the ground. That'd be awesome.
They did a bit of that with
the Mumbai level, kind of did a tiny bit of that. I want to see more of that kind of thing. Where it's got like super rich environments where you're not necessarily incentivized to go to an area, but you can find cool stuff there to use.
I mean, because like, all those maps, you can like, if you can find a vantage point, you can see all the way across.
Right. Yeah.
It's limited by the tech, really, like draw distance and stuff like that. But
right.
The Mumbai level, that was the hotel one.
There's
no.
There's there's a lot going on that level. There's like a prison, or like a prison. There's like a rebel base thing.
No,
this was
skyscraper.
This was in Hitman. This was in Hitman 2, right?
There's the train yard.
Okay.
There's the train yard. There's the woman you have to kill who's like the mystic in the train yard.
Yeah.
You have to go up the tower and kill the film director guy.
In
a skyscraper.
Right.
And then it has the markets area. There's also the one from the first Hitman that has the markets and the rebel base. And then there's also the hotel one.
No, because there's
three different levels.
The guy who is in like there's like in like the kind of the city, like in the kind of the
skyscraper.
No, there's like a place that's like further and is like in like a bunker basically. That's in that level.
That's not the level with the skyscraper and the film director. Those are different levels,
isn't it? Yeah, no,
no, because there's I don't think so, because in that level there's a guy who you don't know what he looks like, and you have to investigate him to figure out who he is to kill him. And then there's the train yard lady, and then there's the skyscraper guy. I don't think.
It is Mumbai, Casting a Ghost. Yeah, it's totally the one I'm thinking of.
Well, I don't know. I guess I'm gonna have to replay Hitman 2 to answer this question.
I've been thinking about doing that myself. I forgot about the train yard.
Yeah.
But
that level you could argue has too much going on.
Yes, because cool I mean we're sitting here going. I remember the like going up and like the film director stuff, but
there's almost too much in that one.
Yeah.
Hitman 3, baby. It's only like a month or two away, isn't it?
Yeah, it's January, I think.
I don't remember this at all. What? Do they add levels to Hitman 2?
Yeah, they did. There's like DLC. From what I heard, they weren't particularly good, but I want to go back and play them anyway, because bad Hitman is good Hitman, or even bad Hitman is good. Let's put it that way.
Sure.
Yeah. Huh. Okay.
I didn't actually get the season pass with the game, but I got it on sale since then. And they added this New York bank level that supposedly is not great, but mostly because it's tiny. And then they added a like resort level. So yeah, but it's mixed reception on those.
Cool.
Well, with that great news, that is going to do it for episode 149. Is that where we're at? Right?
Short one this week. Only 2.5 hours.
Only 2.5 hours.
We had no games to talk about, and we still managed to talk for 2.5 hours.
Yep. Episode 149 on November 28th, 2020. You can find us on Twitter at Fix Podcasts, or go over to fix.space, where you can find an excellent article Alex wrote about Crunch, and maybe some review of Umineko, and
maybe
I'll write a review of Yakuza once I beat it, whenever that happens.
I wonder what score Andre will give Yakuza.
Andre's a pretty I don't know.
I
No,
can be tough, but
no,
I
I'm
mean,
saying-
currently it's a 5.
Yeah,
but-
I was gonna say like it seems pretty obvious because that game seems great. That's more what I'm
but
saying.
Games have been I have been known to sour on games in their
in their final
moments.
hours. That's true.
But,
That's true.
Andre can be a
Yakuza
fickle
pretty
mistress.
Tends to stick the landing in
Yeah.
in my
No,
experience.
sorry, that wasn't a take on Andre. That was a take on the fact that Yakuza seems really fucking good.
It is really good. I'm enjoying it a lot. I still like Kiryu is still my boy. I have not been won over by
Ichiban.
I like Ichiban, but he is no Kiryu.
Preview of the review.
Yeah. I have been your
Review.
host, Andre Cole, aka your partner's favorite Rocky movie.
Right.
You can find me on Twitter at Coolslaw COOLSL4W. Pat, where can people find you?
You can find me at PJC Plays.
And Alex.
You can find me doing that other podcast. Probably Wednesday. I don't know. We'll see.
Wednesday seems like a good day for
Seems like it. Seems like it's
something
out of the
crunchy.
way.
I don't think anybody releases a podcast on Wednesday.
Exactly.
I'll tell you that part of that's because market research says that nobody pays attention to anything on Wednesday. But I still
Perfect.
think it's a good day.
You prove the trends wrong, baby. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll be back next week. Happy Thanksgiving weekend, I guess, or something. Hopefully you stayed at home and stayed healthy and safe if you're in America.
A disappointing number of people that I know did not do that. They don't listen to
USA.
the show, so
Shame.
they won't hear me shaming them. All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
See y'all. Hello, stream. These are just you and I now. You can join me on this journey of getting our editing started. Yeah. Oops. All right, why don't I, in case you're so interested, why not? Why don't I share what I actually do here? Check it. We record our podcast. And I export my audio. Just going to get rid of all this junk from our old stuff and select mine last. So I can just go like, haha, 149. Boom. Saved. And you can see OBS. And we got our chat. Hi, chats. We've got our doc over here. You can tell I was looking at Umineko stuff in the background because Umineko is wonderful. And then we will get into, where are you? Cubase. Where we'll actually start doing the editing. I don't know if this will actually capture the audio. Cubase tends to be a little weird because it takes over my audio drivers. So if my mic disappears, sorry. What other stuff do you want to see? We got this. We got my this. This is for the actual microphone. You can see it gets pumped here. And if I hit this button over here, but you can still see the meters bouncing around because I was muted. What else? I don't know. Is there anything anybody in the chats? Because I see we have a handful of people across Facebook and Twitter and Twitch and all that kind of stuff. If anybody has questions about this process, let me know because we're happy to share our knowledge of how to get into podcasting and how to make it. And Cubase is taking a while. It might be grumpy because I'm streaming and it's using CPU. There it goes. Podcast template. It'll tell me a bunch of warnings. And much like when you're programming, ignore every warning because, those don't matter. Also, what we do in the meantime is there's the warnings. I'm going to select my files for upload, which we have videos, and that, oh, hey, look, there's a work one. We upload these to YouTube, And at the same time, we also get Cubase. Here's all my warnings. Resolve missing files. Ignore it. There's our last episode. So you can see that we edit it, this way, where we each have our own tracks. Just going to delete the old ones. There's our old music. So if you miss the bow, it is still here. Like, we still have it. We can still pull it out if we want. You can't hear it though. Yeah, because it's not going to come through. You can see it's playing if I go here or here. Yeah, see, it's playing. I'm sorry you can't hear it. I don't know if there's an easy way for me to get that to work. Whatever. Not going to worry about it for now. So the first thing I'll do, I'm going to start away over here. Import the audio from our guide track, basically, which is this guy. Let that do its thing for the next minute or so. In the meantime, we'll do Gaming Fix episode 148. 8, right? So we also 9. Woof. Whoopsies. And we're going to title that Mario Kingdom 2077. This is where all the comedy comes from, baby, as we make notes along the way. Pat gave me a note about his audio. So there we go. And then I would start to write the description here. I'll write the description later. I won't do that on a stream because why not? No, it's not made for kids. It's going to be part of our podcast playlist. And we do not contain that, but we do have tags. So isn't this an exciting stream? You get to watch me make tags. Here, I'm going to at least pull up my chat and put it on the other window. Oh, hey, Cubase. So this will usually take probably about another hour and a half to 2 hours after we record to get all this stuff done. It can take a fair bit of time and takes a bit of attention to detail. It's easy to mess this stuff up, and I've totally put out episodes where stuff has been messed up because I didn't take enough time to fix it. Thankfully, we had folks like Jeff Davis to point that out, to be like, hey, Allison's sync seems messed up. And I was like, oh no, what did I do? So first thing you'll see that we do is, if you ever watch our video versions, you'll see that we do 2 claps. That's because I can just come here and see, look, these waveforms, they all line up. It's just an easy way for me to come in here and be like, blap, and blap, and just sync up, just because I can tell that these are the same waveform. Sync those up. And then I just kind of go around and I do spot checks. I check to make sure these are all lined up. And of course I'm listening to them along the way, but you can't hear them. Sorry. Like I'll solo these tracks and compare them. Yep, that sounds good on my end. I know you can't hear it. Sorry. Then I also make sure to check the end, because we do really long episodes and audio can often get out of sync over a long period of time. And it sounds like the sync is pretty good on this, so that's good. Let's just double check. All right, cool. All right, so then I wait for Andre and them to get me their audio files, which I will do, but I will do that off screen because don't need to share our private chat on a stream. Just making sure this is still recording. Yes. We've been live for 2 hours and 28 minutes, baby. No, Andre has not gotten that to me yet. That's fine. He's usually the first because his internet is the fastest. And I could show you exactly what it means, or what it means to get all of our tracks together. All right, so instead, I'm going to take a bit of time. So 24, 48. So 415 plus 35 plus 8. So we're at 43-ish is where Pat had some... Wait, was that right? Yeah, 443-ish is where we would have some Pat weirdness from our notes. So somewhere around here is where Pat had it. I'm just going to do a cut so that I can easily tell that this is an area. Oh, Andre just got me his file. Perfect. Just going to download that. Download.
You cannot escape the inevitability of the podcast.
Yes, Andre. That was his file. That was not Andre. Not Andre here. It was just a preview. And you actually probably got to hear that one because it came through speakers, not this whole nightmare. I don't know. Is there a way? Chat. Anybody in chat? Let me pull that up again because I closed it. If you know a way that I can route my audio from the output of this bad boy into, let's say, Voicemeeter, that would be pretty helpful. I'm just going to close that. Yes, I know we clipped. I could maybe add an not a group channel. Let's do an audio track. Stereo output. Yeah, I don't know if that's going to work. Because I don't know if I can have multiple devices. Maybe. Stream output question mark. I'm just going to move it over here. Wait, no. Can I not do that from here? Do I have to do that from the other menu? Yeah, I might have to do it from over here, which is annoying. That all the way down there. Now it should be over here. Yep. Right next to the output. Then we would want what I could do is I can send, I can't send that shit, but I can take at least this, make a send of, can I not make a new one from here? Do I have to make the, I thought I could make sends from here. Sorry, it's been a while since I've Cubased and reset this template. So maybe I'll have to do it from here. No. Maybe. Let's add group, I guess. Oh, you know what? What am I talking about? Oh God. What? Oh, there we go. Yeah, it's because it's adding a group track. That's fine. So I should have just done that in the first place. Output. Okay. So actually this track is useless. And I think I can only delete that from the other menu. So let's, yes, I know. Remove selected tracks. So we got a group track of output. Can include that. I'm going to send us to output at straight up 00. However, this is where it gets tricky because I don't think I can stereo out it to another device. Puts add bus stereo. Yeah, see, it only gives me access to the one. Poop. Now, if I were to put it in line, let's say 9 and 10, and then route that. Audio is just so fun, by the way. If I can line output 9 and 10 to mix, yeah, mix one left and right. Let's see if that comes through. I'm gonna check OBS. I'm gonna move this to the other screen so I can still full screen all this stuff. And let's just go here. No. No, you're still not hearing it. So whatever. I'm not going to worry about it too much. sorry, I'm checking on this screen to see if I could pull in anything here, which would be helpful. It'd be great if I could put it into the virtual audio cable, but that would mean having to come into here and change this over to maybe ASIO, but probably one of these. And that would just mess everything up. And then I would actually have no audio until I restart things. So not going to do that. In the meantime, I do have Andre's stuff, which I'm going to put into fix audio. And let's pull Andre into his track, which is up here. So if you've never done audio mixing, I do have separate tracks for everybody. I already know that my track is fine, so I'm going to move that away. Or I'm not going to move it away. I'm just going to move Andre here. It's building up his image. And if I pull this back up, you'll see that we have a bunch of effects on everybody. Let me pull this up. So we have Andre here, and this is his strip all the way to the top. And he has very few things on his, actually. He used to have a gate, which I've actually included here with Nectar, which is a great plugin from iZotope, where I have a compressor, but I also have his gate. I have a little bit of a de-esser going, which helps with sibilance, all the S sounds, and making sure that those go away. I have a little bit of saturation to make him sound a little nicer, a little like he's going through a tube amp or something like that, basically, but like a tube, like an amplifier that you would do for a microphone. Sorry, just typing a quick message. And yeah, so saturation gives you a nice warm sound. That's all I'm doing for him. You'll see on other tracks, like I think even on mine, yeah, I have an actual EQ going. Because I have a pretty good idea of what my room is like and what my microphone is like in its profile. So I like to come in here and... Oh god, that was so loud for me. I know you didn't hear anything, but let's go to where I actually do some speaking and solo this. Not solo Andre, let's just solo my shit. Here, so you'll see... So you can see here, I'm pulling down some of the spots where my voice and my room naturally kind of collide. And this is another spot where the voice, it actually kind of is my natural speaking area-ish of where I speak. So it's just kind of amplifying those and giving it a little bit more of the overtones. I'm really glossing over this. I'm not going to get into it too deep. Let's see, also using iZotope, we have, who's this? Is this Allison? Oh my God, please. Yeah, Allison, her room is a little harder to work with. So I actually have an EQ going for her with a big, just tearing down everything that she's got going on over here because her room is very, very, very noisy. Just a massive high pass filter. And then... Sorry, I'm looking for something real fast. I'm going to pull this over here. So she has a massive high pass filter going on because her room is terrible. And she also has like a fan or something, which is just constantly here. So pull that away. And then a very specific gate for her to try and get around because she does a lot of typing on her keyboard, which comes up. So this is getting rid of that. But after that, I'm doing this on the raw, and then what I'm doing is I'm boosting the output afterwards, just by 3 dB, which is like double the volume almost. And I like to do that before. Some people like to do that to do all this stuff after. I just prefer doing it before. I don't think it really makes that huge of a difference in our product. And then also running her through Nectar. Similar stuff. No gate here, obviously, because we're doing a gate earlier. But doing some similar compression and saturation to Andre. I don't know if anyone else has anything particularly special other than that, just gates and EQs. We do have a little bit of reverb, which we use. That's coming from Altiverb. We're using the Zappa Studio. Why? I don't know. I like Zappa. It gives us a nice tone, and it's not a lot of reverb, but it makes us all sound like we're in the same room, kind of. And you can see that here. It's really low. If you focus on this track, I forget. There's a way to zoom these in. I can't remember what the keyboard shortcut is. Doesn't matter. Let's go to you. Let's go to a spot where there's multiples. Actually, sorry, I'm just going to first get Andre kind of synced. So he's somewhere around there, and then I'll use this as an actual point to compare. And I'm just going to check it out audioly. I'm going to turn down my volume because it's going to be really loud for me, even though you're not going to hear anything. Nope, that sounds good. So if I turn everybody back, I'm just going to go here where there's more speaking. Here. There we go. Reverb. So that's a little tiny bit of reverb. Where our master is over here, but the reverb is all the way down there. I'm getting a little bit of distortion here, so I might actually want to do a bit of cleanup on this. So I take our voices here and I put it through Ozone, but I think something is a little hot in Ozone. I think maybe our maximizer could come down just a little bit. I know you can't hear this, sorry. Sorry. This is really hard to show when you guys can't hear it, so apologies for that. But yeah, beyond that, I'm going to be editing this. I'm going to be checking sync along the way. Andre's was actually pretty well synced here. I'm going to make sure it stays synced. He tends to fall a little ahead after, after an hour. Like, yeah, you see here, his waveform is a little ahead of this blue one, which is our base record, like our recording off of the video. Yeah, he's like a solid half a second ahead there. So I'm going to have to come back and probably cut here and find a good point to sync him up again. Going for somewhere where there's relative silence, where he has not said anything in a while. Then I'm going to have to find a decent point to sync up. Is this him? Yeah, so he's actually like way over here. No. Was that him? I think he's actually like here. I'm going to have to actually check this out, though. I don't think this is right yet. There we go. This is it. Let's sync up with this little click here. There we go. Yeah, that is correct. So he's all synced up there. How do we sound just a little bit before? I wonder if there's any way I can share this with you. How about this? What I will do is I'm using my headphones as a way to monitor it myself. So what I'll do is I'll take them off of my head so I can't hear myself speaking anymore. That's what this mute was. That's my microphone. Hello. And I'm going to turn my volume up on my headphones. And now my mic is kind of pointed at my headphones. So you're going to be hearing what I'm hearing here.
That happens from like a narrative design perspective, the deeper you get into the game.
For some reason, I fell off the game right when it was
starting. So if you can hear that, Andre's voice is not in sync with himself. Like, this is the bass track, this is him, but like he's a little bit afterwards in this case. So
for some reason I fell off the game right when it was starting to get interesting, which is like all the I had other stuff coming up, other games and like other stuff.
So I need to do another sync probably over here somewhere in order to kind of compensate for this.
Pain again, because he has felt so much pain that he knows.
Yep. So I'm just going to do a little one here and compensate for it a little bit more. So I'm going to pull him back.
His whole thing is he just wants to
pull him even actually.
Thing is, he just wants to like someone
There we
who
go.
can make him feel pain again because he is.
Now that sounds almost exactly the same. And just come back here and see how that held up.
Once you get to it, but it's like, okay, the story's like starting to get kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's like you have a slight echo, and honestly, that's fine. I don't mind that much. Let's come back here.
Technically, everything it has to offer, or at least most of what it has to offer, and I'm having a
That's
lot.
fine. Let's do another one over here. I'm just going to zoom in. Let's pull him a little bit before that.
He can type. I bet. I imagine he's a smart man who has been involved.
Sorry, just going into some side chats. Okay. Let's you back.
I mean, like,
Actually, that sounds like right on. Make sure I'm actually right here.
I'm just
Yeah,
curious.
cool. That's good. This is more Andre alone. Oh, it looks like it's actually a bit ahead there.
The government also wants to get people out of the cities into more rural areas.
That's fine. Again, it sounds just like an echo. I don't mind that much desync. It's when you start having like half a second. That's not great.
Now, these consoles.
I don't even know if we go to the very end if we'll have that much desync anymore. If I was using the raw track, we would.
Thanksgiving weekend, I guess, or something. Hopefully, you stayed home.
We're getting closer to that much desync there, so I still need to do one more adjustment. Let's see here. And again, this is because we're working with files that are hours long. Like you wouldn't get this on short tracks, and we do make sure to use the same resolution. So we're using the same sample rate. We're using the bit depth doesn't matter. That's sample rate affects this horizontal. Like if we're looking at a waveform on a horizontal, that is time, right? And that's frequency. How frequently are we grabbing audio? And we're taking it 44,000 times per second. So we're all using that same rate, but all our computers are also behaving slightly differently. So over time, things get a little bit desynced, and that's what I'm adjusting for.
Stayed home and.
Whereas bit depth, which is the other one, is actually the vertical rather. It dictates how much we can. Did I remove a bunch of crap here? Oh, that's fine. It looks like more than it was. It dictates the range of volume we can do, basically, which is great. It's very helpful. Now, I'm just going to see if Pat's audio is available. I'm just going to scroll away because we have some private stuff here that I'm going to grab from links, and I don't want to accidentally dox Pat. All right, so it's not there yet. His internet's a bit slower. That's fine. All right. I might actually pull away from streaming the rest of this because the rest of this is going to kind of be busy work and rendering. And I'm also going to jump into this stuff, which also is not particularly interesting. This is going to be making tags like stuff we talked about. So, Yakuza, like a dragon, stuff that will give us a little bit more searchability. So thanks for joining. Have a good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you happen to be. And this episode should probably be up in about, let's call it an hour and 45 minutes, maybe. I'll aim for around 11. We'll aim for 11 a.m.